Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to James Cameron.
I almost bailed on being a filmmaker. It's about sitting in that big dark room with all those other people you don't know, and something's gonna come up on that screen that's gonna take you somewhere.
I'm the king of the world! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first roundtable episode of James Cameron 101. This is for T2 3D Battle Across Time, which is a attraction that was originally at Universal Studios Florida. Then it expanded to Hollywood, and then it finally went to Japan. And we're just going to be having a lot of fun on this roundtable tonight. I've assembled a bunch of people that were integral in the development of the show, as well as the day-to-day operation of T2 3D Battle Across Time. So if you're a fan of this show, you're in the right spot. And if you're not familiar with this show, hopefully this roundtable will inspire someone to check it out, because there's plenty of videos that you can find on YouTube, and check it out for yourself. So before I bring in our guests here, I just wanted to kind of cover some of the facts about T2 3D, and then we'll bring in our very special guests tonight. So T2 3D originally opened in Florida. April 1st is the soft opening, and then it officially opened April 27th, 1996. It closed in Florida. The final performance was October 8th, 2017. I was going to say 1997. October 8th, 2017, and the official closing is October 9th, 2017. And it expanded to Hollywood May 6th, 1999. It closed in Hollywood January 1st, which means the final performance was December 31st. And for Japan, it opened March 31st, 2001, and it closed September 14th, 2020. So Japan held out the longest. And I think COVID had a thing or two to do with the closure in Japan. We're going to talk to one of our guests about that. Maybe he knows something, but that's what the internet's telling me when it comes to Japan. It seems like COVID had a lot to do with that, unfortunately. For Florida, it was replaced by the equally impressive Born Stuntacular, which is phenomenal. It's a great show. I highly recommend, if anyone is visiting Universal Studios, check out the Born Stuntacular. It's worth your money. And when it comes to Hollywood, it's not as exciting. It was replaced by the Minions. Minion Mayhem took out the Terminator. I'm kind of still salty about that. That's very unfortunate. And then Japan has a very interesting one. It was replaced by, and I did a lot of making sure this was right here, Detective Conan 4D Jewel Under the Starry Sky. I have no idea what that is. I've never heard of it. Maybe we'll ask our guests if they've ever heard of Detective Conan. But there you go. So those are some of the facts there. The overall cost of this production, the attraction itself, was $60 million. 24 of that million went to the film. The other 36 went to, I guess, the breaking of the theater, putting everything in there, all that stuff. The film itself runs for 12 minutes. The show could hold up to 700 people per show. And we'll just get into some quick facts here about the film. It was directed by James Cameron, which is why we're covering it here on the podcast. Also, Stan Winston, John Bruno, and Keith Melton had something to do with the directing duties. I'll also ask one of our guests about that, because that's very kind of confusing when it comes to the directing. It was written by James Cameron, one of our guests tonight, Gary Goddard, and Adam J. Bazark. I hope I'm saying that right. Produced by Chuck Comiskey, Gary Goddard, Brian Rogers. Music by Brad Fidel. Danny Donati did the pre-show music, which is very exciting because that's so iconic. I still hear it in my sleep sometimes. The cinematography was done by Russell Carpenter, who is a longtime collaborator with James Cameron. He did the live action, and Peter Anderson is credited with the 3D cinematography. And a fun little fact here that I'm not sure many people know: the voice of the Cyberdyne video narrator is Jim Cummings, who is most famous for Winnie the Pooh. So that's pretty exciting. Those are some facts I just wanted to start the podcast episode with, the roundtable. So now let's get into why everyone's here, why you're listening to this episode. We're going to bring in our guests of honor, and they're going to introduce themselves as we bring them in. So let me bring in our first guest here. He is probably, I mean, everyone's important to this production here, but without this guy, I don't know that we'd all be here today. So our first guest of honor is
Gary Goddard. Good to be here. I was involved, created the original concept for the show and pitched it to Universal. That's an interesting story, which I'm happy to talk about, but I'll wait until everyone else is in to go into any detail. But what you might be interested in is this. I had a birthday card for Masters of the Universe in 1987, but 1997, it was Terminator 2 3D, and my company did this one. So you can see Gary Goddard's battle against time. That's
wow.
Me. So
I love it.
Anyway, so I created the concept, pitched it to Jay Stein, to Universal, everyone there, and then I had to pitch it to Jim. That's part of the story. Jim approved it, and we were off to the races. Then we were kind of inventing a lot of this as we went, as you know. It was nothing like this had been done before. Live actors, 3D, 4D, in a unique theater with 360-degree sound. It was very challenging, but it turned out very well. And happy to answer questions and tell more stories later. But we'll get the other people on, and we'll see. There would have been no show without the performers either. So everyone's important.
Everyone's important, but yes, without Gary Goddard, we wouldn't be talking about this tonight. So I say this for everyone that's here tonight, that everyone that's listening or watching this, thank you, Gary, for this. This is such a special part of so many people's lives. So we're going to bring in our next special guest. This person was integral to bringing everyone on board for what they were about to experience, because there was a pre-show that happened before the main show. And it is.
Hi, I'm Christy. I played Kimberly Duncan.
There we go. Kimberly Duncan, the integral kind of host, essentially, basically, of the whole experience.
Yep.
It's amazing. I love it. And you're wearing your T2 3D casting crew shirt, right there.
I am. And I have my Kimberly bobblehead here with us today, too.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. I didn't know that. So is that like just a one-off kind of thing, or were a bunch of those made?
Somebody bought it for me. I think they had them in Japan.
Wow.
But she's so great.
Wow.
So that's my little Kimberly. Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Likeness very well.
Maybe it was based off of you.
Maybe.
Right? But correct me if I'm wrong, either one of you, correct me if I'm wrong, was the Kimberly Duncan role, was that able to be switched out to a male version?
We never did a male.
Never did a male.
Mm-mm.
It was always female.
It was always women.
Interesting. Because I know sometimes, depending on the attraction, I guess you can have a man or a woman kind of swapping the roles there, and they just change the name.
Clearly there is an employee relations lawsuit there somewhere from the male contingent.
I know a lot of guys who wanted to do it.
Oh, I'm telling you, it's such a funny but also menacing performance. So I'm sure a lot of people wanted to dive into that and kind of see what they could do with it. But I'm happy to have you here. This is the first time I've talked to Gary on another podcast that I hosted before, but this is the first time I'm talking to you, Christy. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And we're going to get this thing rolling right into our next guest, who is, I mean, when you think of Terminator, right? When you think of Terminator, you think of, I mean, you probably think of all the people we're going to have on tonight, but you think of the person that it all started with, really, the identity of the Terminator. In my opinion, it's always been her story, and it is.
Hi, I'm Kiana Politis, and I played Sarah Connor.
It's Sarah Connor's story, no matter what anyone says. I don't know, like, if anyone has any disagreements about that, but to me, it's always been Sarah's story. And I know John's very important to the whole thing, but
of course,
yeah, of course, absolutely. So, and I love it. You're also in. It looks like you're in some Sarah getup here.
Yeah. Got the hat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boom.
Got my gear on.
Now, do you have a bobblehead? Do you have a bobblehead of Sarah?
I do. I do not with me right now, but I do. Yes.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. So, and I've talked to Kiana before. We did actually a T2 3D episode on a podcast I hosted called Terminator 101. That was the first time I got to speak to Kiana, but I never saw you. It was like a phone call podcast recording. So this is
right. Yes.
This is the first time, and you were with Mark Matthews when we did that one. So excited to finally be able to talk to you face to face. And
likewise.
Next up is, when you think of T2 specifically, one villain comes to mind, and it is...
Hi, Mike, Sawyer, T-1000, and John Connor.
Whoa! Seriously?
That's right.
I actually got to open as John and did T-1000 after that, and then opened Japan.
As the T-1000?
As the T-1000.
So if you had to pick one, you probably played the T-1000 way more?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you're wearing the shirt that I wanted to wear tonight, but I didn't have it cleaned. And look at, I love that shirt. I love that shirt. I own it. And dang it, I'm so sad that I didn't, but you're wearing it. It's one of my favorite shirts from that show. Unfortunately, I never got the farewell shirt when it left Florida. I know they had a farewell shirt, but
they went quick.
They went quick. Yes.
I have one if you want it.
You have one?
Yeah.
It's $1,000. It's $1,000.
I have one. I bought it for one of our T1000s out in LA, but he's in France and I never mailed it. So I've got it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a cool shirt. I love it. Just says farewell, and then it has the 96 to 2017 right there.
Yep.
But Mike, it's great to have you here.
Sorry, no bobblehead.
No bobblehead. Dang it. Dang it. All right. So next up, when you think of Terminator 2 as well, and you're not going along the villain line, you're going along the heroic kind of character line. You're probably thinking of two characters that are left, but he's the main point of T2. It is.
Oh, that's the main point. I am Jason Latona. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. I'm kind of a big deal. I'm Jason Latona, and I played the role of John Connor.
Or as you like to say, John Connor played you.
John Connor played, and I like Kiana. She has the costume and bobblehead. I actually stole the wig. I'm still wearing it. That's the only feasible explanation from this head of hair at my age. So I gotta make up some kind of story.
I love it. I love it. And Jason, out of everybody that I've ever interacted with on this panel, you and I have done the most like podcasting kind of thing. And we did a Terminator Genesis audio commentary a few years back, and all this stuff. And that was, I think, when you were still over in Singapore when we did that.
Yes. Yeah, and I was still in Singapore. Yeah. And then I think we did 2 shows when I came back to the States.
Yep. So
Eddie Green 101.
Yes, sir. So it's exciting to have you back here, man. I mean, you're probably, I think we can all agree, you're the funniest out of this whole entire group.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I'm independently wealthy. I was actually, Gary, I was the one that did sue. I went to HR and said, hey, wait a second, how come there can't be a guy Kimberly Duncan? So I just settled out of court. So I'm still collecting those royalties. It's
Good
pretty
for you.
sweet.
I'm glad someone did.
Oh my God. And last, but certainly not least, he is quite literally the face of this entire franchise. He's extended beyond T2. He went to T3. He's in Salvation briefly. He's in every single thing that's ever been created about Terminator, except I think Sarah Connor Chronicles. He's not in that one. But it is last, but certainly not least.
Jeff Brozovich, Terminator, the T-800. I'm right here. Come on and get me.
Just for that, I'm going to put you right up there. Just for that, you go right up there.
So Kiana had her whole getup on. I do have the whole getup, obviously. Look at this leather. Come on, baby. You can't go home without it.
Wow, look at that.
I too stole the wig. So Jason, screw you. I don't have a bobblehead, but I've got a bucket head.
Oh,
And yeah, man, this is a fun crew right here. These are like this is long time. This is family right here, and that's that's what Terminator. We're in the backstage little talking area there, and I'm like, man, we need to do this like once a month because these people, we have so many stories. I mean,
I miss you guys.
we do. I mean, you got to think about it. You go to a place, a workplace, and you spend 6, 7, 8 hours, 10 hours all day.
I was gonna say 10 years. Fuck you. Fucking hours. What the fuck are you talking about? I've spent 10 fucking years with that motherfucker.
It was. Yeah,
Jason got out about halfway through the run in Florida, but even Gary, like in the little bit of time that we spent with Gary for the 6-8 months, leading up to the show opening, we sat around and just in the theater, telling stories and getting to know each other. So. Yeah, you spend so much time with this group of people, and each one of us can just talk for hours about the other person, and obviously Jason can talk for hours about himself. So I don't know how long this podcast is supposed to be, but you're in for a ride.
I know.
So, I love it. I love it. So if for anyone listening, and if you are only listening, it's a shame. Please try to track down. This should be on Spotify, the filmed version. So everyone should be able to see what we're all seeing right now. So that way you get the full scope of this podcast, because it's probably going to be very animated. A lot of flashing stuff going on. And so let's start. And yes, of course, Jason's become a bodybuilder. So
it's just one arm. It's just one arm.
Just one arm. No, 100%. That's it. That's everything else is shit. I got one good arm. That's what
good arm, baby.
I was waiting to see you do a handstand.
That's not so bad, dude. I tried to do one I tried to do one not too long ago, and I was trying to impress these chicks at the gym, and I almost died. So yeah, I almost died.
All right, so
I can still fucking do it, man.
So let's throw it back to Gary. I'm going to make Gary full screen here for a second, but we'll all still be able to talk and whatnot. But Gary, if you want to just as quickly or as short, however you want to do it, tell the origin story for anyone who is not familiar, how this came to be. How did this concept come to you? Why Terminator? Why not, I don't know, Last Action Hero or something like that? Why Terminator?
I've been doing a lot of work with Jay Stein and Universal over the years, the Conan show and King Kong and a bunch of other stuff. And he called me one day and said, I want to do a stunt show in the old Conan theater. So this was originally supposed to be in LA. It was going to open in LA. And I want to base it on Terminator. And I said, okay. He says, so I want you to come up with a concept of some kind. And then he called almost immediately 2 days later and said, it has to be Terminator 2, because Terminator 1 is owned by a different studio, and Terminator 2 is the only one we can use. And we don't have the rights, but we can get those rights. So it needs to be based on T2. Okay. So in those days, there was just the laser discs. I got a laser disc. I mean, I'd already seen the movie several times when it came out, but now, you're going to try and think how to adapt it for theme parks. That's a whole different exercise. You want to take the essence of a show or of an IP or of a movie or whatever, and you don't want to try and recreate that movie. That was one thing that I worked with Jay a lot on the Conan show. That's another story for another time. But I was saying, Jay, you can't recreate a movie on stage because you don't have close-ups, and you can't move the camera and track the camera, and you don't have all these surprise things. You have to find a way to adapt it. And I said, let's not try and recreate a moment from Conan back then. Let's create our own, and that was that. So now we applied it to Terminator, to T2. So I got the Laserdisc and watched it, and Jim's an amazing filmmaker, because I wanted to just watch certain scenes, and I would put that scene on Laserdisc, and then no matter how many times I'd watch a particular scene, it would keep going, and you'd be 20 minutes past that scene into the movie before you stop again and realize I'm not watching the whole movie. I'm just trying to watch these sequences. So anyway, what you realize when you look at that movie, it's really 4 chases. There's a chase with a helicopter and a truck, and it's a chase with a motorcycle, and the foot chase through the hospital. So then you think adapting that for a live stage show is going to be tough, because it's a bunch of chases, and you can't really do great chases on stage live. And he wanted to be a stunt show, and so long story short, we were wrestling with trying to do a stunt show, and I just had this nightmare of a guy in a tinfoil outfit, some kind of tinfoil outfit, battling some lookalike T2 on stage in a bad stunt fight. And it was just, those ideas are just, not going to work. And I was working with one of the guys that worked with me at Landmark, then my company, and we were trying to come up with a good idea. And he comes into my office one day and he goes, I can't come up with anything. And I said, no, well, something will come. We'll work it out. He goes, well, maybe you just need to tell him we can't do it. I said, we're not calling Jay Stein and telling him we can't do this, because someone else will tell them they can do it, whether they can or not, and they'll get the gig. So then I went into desperation mode, because at that point we were about a week away from having to go pitch a rough concept. And I use a little thing whenever my imagination is locked. It comes from a Viola Spolin book on theater workshops. It's called The Magic What If. It's for actors. What if you can't really figure out a character or something, if you don't really be a doctor, well, what if you were a doctor? What if you were stuck in front of a train? What if is to unlock. And so I went to Dupar's after work at like 11 o'clock at night. What if I could do anything? Let's forget it's a stunt show. What if I could do anything? What would I do? And I suddenly had this image of the motorcycle coming out from a movie into the theater. And I went, okay, that would be cool. We could do that. We could use 3D and da-da-da. Oh, but then we could do the T1000, and he could come up and then he come back and it's a live guy in the theater. So I had 3 big moments come into my mind that would involve 3D and live actors in a live stage setting. So I wrote those down, and I wrote down Terminator 2 3D, and then I wrote down T2 3D, and then I called Jay in the morning at Universal. I said, Jay, I've got an idea, but it's just, I want to get with you at the germ of an idea first before we go too far, because it's not exactly a stunt show. It will have stunts, I'm sure. It's more of a special effects show with live performers that will use 3D film. And I'd like to just give you the bare essence of it. I don't have the details yet before I go too far off in this direction, because it's not exactly a stunt show. He says, okay, Jay's never the most cheery guy. So I went over there and I said, look, I got 3 ideas, and I had 3 sketches then. The sketch of the T1000 coming out of the screen and the motorcycle and all that. I said, I've got these 3 kind of things, and here's the basic idea. We're gonna pick a moment. I said, if we get the live actors involved, John Connor has grown up since the last T2 movie, so we have to pitch this somewhere in that age group where he's now grown up. So, well, do you think this is going to work? And blah, 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 blah. I said, well, if we can do it, I think it'd be pretty fantastic. And I just want to know if we can continue and under our contract do this instead of a straight ahead stunt show. I said, go ahead. So we got the go ahead. And then we started to try and work out all of the intricate details, but more importantly, the story. Because the other thing I told Jay was, Jay, we're going to have to pitch this to Jim Cameron at some point, because we won't get the rights without it. We all knew that. That was a given. Jay had been told they could get the rights from Corelco, which had gone bankrupt. So the rights were tied up in a bankruptcy, but they could get it. But they needed to get their permission, and they needed to get the permission of Gail Ann Hurd, Jim's ex-wife, because she got the rights to Terminator in their settlement. And all of them, I said, look, I know what's going to happen here. They're all going to say, what does Jim say? They're not going to okay this unless Jim okays it. So, which was exactly what they all said. They told Universal, yeah, we love this. If Jim approves it, we'd love to see it happen. So I told him, I said, we're going to pitch this to Jim Cameron. We're going to have to really have our shit together, because he bullshit him, and it's his property. So that's all a long way of saying that this all came about because I went back to the client. One thing I learned when I started my company a long time ago, which is another story, the client is not always right. Sometimes you have to lead the client to get to what they really are looking for. This is one of those cases where I said, yeah, this is the wrong property for a stunt show, but it's the exact right property for this show that combines film and live actors and 4D effects and things in a new kind of way. So cut to the chase now. Now we got the funding to really develop the concept and keep going, and we got it to a certain point. And I thought we'd pitch it to Jim then, and then Jay's the one who said, no, we need to do more work first if we're going to bring in Jim. We really need this, which went into a second phase where we actually scripted it. In a concept, you don't really usually do a script. You do a really tight treatment with all the main beats and all that kind of thing, and you get the show design, and you get the basic set pieces, conceptually set. But in this case, we basically we wrote the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Adam Bizark worked with me on the script. Adam wound up, I mean, he made contributions overall, but he really focused on the Kimberly, on the pre-show. And to answer your question from board, Keith Melton directed the Q video, the pre-show video and the Q video. So that's where Keith was involved. He wasn't involved in the actual motion picture. The 3D consultant that you talked about was not the cinematographer. Russell was Carpenter was the DP through everything, but he was the 3D consultant. He had the expertise in 3D. I think those are the main names you mentioned. So that should answer those questions. So we were off to the races, and I have more to say, but I want to get the other people involved. But basically, I will tell you this: there was no easy sail on this. Most of the Universal executives thought the show would be a disaster. They never understood the 3D live thing. They were against it. This is a tribute to Jay Stein, who stuck with it, and then to James Cameron, who really got behind it. And then to Ron Bension, who, after Jay left, stuck with it as well. So is that enough for right now? That's probably too much for right now. We'll get to everybody else.
No, that's perfect. That's because I know you've talked about that a bunch of times before. I've heard a bunch of other podcasts that you've done. So at this point, you're probably you're going through the motions there. But thank you for answering those questions about the specific, the names and everything, because I think that is, if you go on IMDb, like the credits are sort of nutty on this movie. So
yeah, I agree. I keep meaning to correct those, but I've never got around to it. But you're right, because I don't think of it until someone brings it up like this.
Yeah. So there it is. Hopefully that answers anyone's questions about the credits. So going to Christy, I'm going to make you full screen here for a second. Tell me your origin story. How does Kimberly Duncan come into your life?
I actually didn't open the show in Florida. I joined them a year later, and then I opened the show in LA, and then I came back to Florida. So I started in Florida, and then I opened the show in LA, and I worked there for 4 years, and then I came back to Florida, and I did it until it closed here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and Gary, thank you so much, because you employed me for a really, really long time, and I still work at the park. And
where's my 10%?
I mean, thank God for you. It was an awesome show, and it was fun to do.
And this is gonna. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I actually went to see the show from the time that I got a Universal annual pass. It has to be at least in the 20 to 30 times I experienced the show. And for a handful of those times, I remember, I distinctly remember because I reached out to Jeff for this. I was like, when I was thinking of doing this, I was like, I have everyone's contacts pretty much, essentially. I can reach out to everybody. I don't have a single Kimberly Duncan. And can you please help me get a Kimberly Duncan? Because the last time we did this, it felt very weird not having somebody who played Kimberly Duncan talking with us. So when he added you to the group, and then I was able to see who you were, I was like, I totally remember her. Like you and Stephanie.
Yeah. Stephanie.
You and her are the two that I always somehow got. I don't know how it happened that way.
Her.
Yeah, Christy is amazing. I loved working with her. She is.
Can you, because I mean, I'm sure it's one of the elephants in the room. There was a particular line that Kimberly Duncan always said that you're probably sick and tired of saying, but would you mind kind of mic dropping?
She said super.
By the way, that is pure Adam Bizarre. That was Adam. Yeah. That whole shtick, that whole thing was Adam. Adam, that is where he shines. He does really good comedy. That was all him. The super was him. Everything was him.
Yeah, and he directed us in LA. So he was my director in LA.
But I mean, even originally going back when we scripted it, that was basically. I mean, he worked with me a little bit on the main thing, and I worked with him a little bit on that. But that was pretty much him. So. Yeah, and that super thing was that stuck, boy. That worked.
It really did. I'm surprised that wasn't like a shirt at some point, or maybe it was a shirt. Does anyone know if that was turned into a shirt?
It should have been.
No.
Universal always drops the ball on great marketing things like that. I mean,
is it too late? Could we make one now?
My
I got a cushion machine. I'll get started on it tonight.
But talking about the pre-show before we go to Kiana to talk about how Sarah entered her life, talking about that pre-show for a second, because it's a unique element to it. And funny enough, if anyone has seen the Bourne Stuntacular or been involved in it, because I know we still have some people that work at Universal still to this day. They kind of kept that blueprint, because there is still a pre-show like that. There isn't someone standing on top, kind of guiding the whole thing, but there is a screen and you stand in that exact same room. And so they kept that blueprint, which is unique, because I was wondering when that was replacing T2, I was wondering if that room particularly was going to get gutted and turned into something else, but they just kept the room. And that's where
it's kind of funny because yeah, you have Mike Sawyer works there, Christy still works there, and I still work there. So we all still actually are cast members and part of the Bourne Stuntacular. And I will say, the first time I walked into that building after they had gutted it, basically knocked out the walls, they had to bump it out and add all kinds of stuff into it. But it's about, what is it, 53%, I think, Mike, is what it is? They had to keep at least 53% of the footprint and the blueprint the same, so they didn't have to fall into different codes like building codes and stuff. Yeah. So that was the whole point. Like, they had to keep 53% of it, and they literally kept just 53%. So when you'll walk down a hall and there's a door that's been moved over and they built out in there. So it's very weird. Like, you turn, like, the hallways, the stairwells are all the same, but then you get out and you're in this new room over here. It's a very weird feeling to be back in the building after being there for 20, 2-3 years, whatever, as original cast, and coming back and you're just sitting in this theater going, what is this?
Yeah, it's oddly similar, but really different too.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
They drywalled over Kimberly's door to the balcony. It just doesn't exist anymore. It's very sad.
Yes. Yeah, you can see the drywall outline and the paint. Yeah. They're like, there was a door there. There was a door.
Now, for anyone, so Mike, Christy, and Jeff, you're not included in this because you still work there. But for anyone else, have you all experienced the Bourne Stuntacular?
I have not.
I've watched it, but only on video. I intend to, when next time I'm in Florida, I'm going to see it. I'm relatively impressed with the technology. A little bit less with the storytelling, although I want to be fair. I'm not in the theater. So I don't want to make a judgment. But I will say
your judgment is correct.
Feel free.
1,000%. You nailed it.
100% correct.
But when, and I don't think all of it works well, but when it works, there's moments in there that even I'm watching the video, I'm going, that's pretty fucking cool. That really works. And so I think, as a creator of these kind of things, and I'm in a unique position, having directed films and written films and created TV series and done theme park things and done Broadway and everything else. I look at the totality of something, and the technology in T2 3D was always used in service of the story. And I think that people got in, and we were very fortunate when Jim got involved because he got the actual stars involved, and we pull people into that. So impressive technology is only good to a point. And so I look at that and I look at it and think, wow, there's some cool stuff you could do with this. And I think they did some cool stuff with it. But again, I don't want to, it's really unfair to say this because I only watched the video, but watching the video, I felt like, okay, this is a little hollow and the story doesn't grab me. A lot of it is like, I don't quite believe that, but certain moments look fucking awesome. So I think the way I think is, give me that technology and get me the right thing, and I'll write a script that really works to that, and where you're then swept up in the story as well, not just the impressive tech.
It needs that so badly. It needs that
so
badly.
Like
it is beautiful to look at, but the story is incredibly lacking.
With the technology that's out there today, and you're right on the mark, Gary. With the technology that's out there today, it would have been pretty impressive if they'd done a reboot of the Terminator show and ride, or whatever you want to call it, and they could have used the technology that we use, or they use at the Bourne Stuntacular, or something similar, or something like that, and just rebooted it, and it would have been. You're right. The story is really what drives T2 and did drive T2 Terminator. I mean, and not to pull back the curtain too much on how theme parks roll, but theme parks, when they build a ride or a show, they're really only looking for about a 10-year shelf life. That's about what they're looking out for a show or a ride. So they're really honestly thinking, man, this will be about 10 years and then we're going to move on. You know, obviously budgets come into play, but the fact that Terminator lasted for 21 years in Florida is a testament to the writing and to the storyline and what you guys did at Landmark
and to the great performers that were doing it day in, day out.
Jason left after 10 years, so that was his shelf life.
Gary,
that was all I could
Same
do.
with mine.
I could only carry the show. I could only carry the show for 10 years. It got fucking heavy.
He turned 21. He had to go do something else, you know.
I did, yeah.
You turned 21.
You just become a T1000.
Right.
No,
Gary, you're correct about the story. I mean, that's why they had to add a character at Bourne. I did open the show, and yes, when it works, it is an incredible show with great effects, but you need the story. And there
isn't one.
This is what I'll tell you. I don't talk about this that much, but it's far enough away now. Everyone's gone. Ron Benson's retired, but he retired. You know, thank God Jim Cameron got involved. Jim and I had a great wah, right? Because I could call Jim. I can say this now. Whenever I was hitting a big wall with execs at Universal, I could call them and go, look, they're trying to dumb down the script. They're trying to, and they kept saying, audiences won't understand this. They won't understand the time jump. I said, have you ever been to a Broadway show? Any Broadway show? Because there you can go from Italy to New York to, you know, the sets change and the audience goes with it. They go with it. And they kept saying, yeah, but when the guy makes the leap, how are you going to, it will work. It's a theatrical environment. You have live actors. They'll go with it. And when they go into the future, it was all designed, by the way, that when they go into the future, the screen widens out as the camera trucks in, right? The camera's trucking in with them following the thing. And as they're doing that, the screen wipes. So it's almost invisible, but the audience member feels, not consciously. They don't sit there and think it, but they feel they just went with them into this new environment. It's a theatrical device. Man, you try to explain that to the executives at Universal back then, they were like, no, we have to tell them. They wanted someone to say, we're going into the future now, you know. So, no, we're not going to do that, you know. And the same thing throughout the whole thing. And that was okay. I fought those battles. When I needed a little backup, I'd tell Jim on the queue, can you get to one? And he was in the middle of pre-production on Titanic, guys. So he was busy, okay. But he would make time where he could, and he'd come in and we'd do a review. And he'd pretend not to have heard any of this. And then he'd go, well, I don't understand. What is that? Well, they wanted to, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. And, you know, Jim is the 2,000-pound gorilla. If he says it, that's done. But the really dicey one was literally 2 months before we're going to open this. We were starting rehearsals now. We've cast. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I get this weird set of notes written in the script from Ron's office, from someone he had look at the script. And they really wanted to deconstruct the script. I called Ron. I said, Ron, are you fucking crazy? And I could talk to Ron. We have that. I said, it's done. The tracks have been done. The cast has been cast. You want to change a line, maybe a line here, a line there, but we can't, you know. And it was all this goofy stuff about, I don't think people are going to understand this. I said, this is a person who thinks that, and then if you'll know, theme park live shows have this problem. They dumb the shows down to the lowest common. They think that audiences can't follow a plot or a story. And granted, yeah, you have to tell a different way than you do a film or a Broadway show because you don't have 2 hours to do it. But you don't have to dumb it down to the point of the lowest common denominator. You don't have to do that, right? But that's what they want to do. So I flat out told Ron, I just said, Ron, we can't make these changes. He said, well, please write why. And so this person knows. So I wrote them, oh God, I ripped these notes to shit. And he called me afterwards. He goes, I said, well, you wanted to know. Yeah, but why'd you have to do it that way? You're going to make this person feel like they're an idiot. I said, they are, you know? Anyway, all the battles are behind the scenes. No one knows, you know?
Yeah, really.
That's great.
No.
That's so cool. I love it. We'll continue, and I'm sure we'll touch on a bunch of other the behind the scenes stories. But Kiana, I just want to highlight you for a second here. How did Sarah Connor enter your life and T2 3D?
Well, when I saw the ad for auditions for the show, I was in love with the movie, in love with the character Linda Hamilton played. So I thought I'd give it a shot, and had no idea that I would get the role. It has opened many other doors for me as far as the stunt business. That was the first role that I've had that involved stunts. And the training that we all had to go through, it wasn't just a show that you just had to learn. We actually had Captain Dale Dye from the military come in and train us, and it was vigorous training. We learned how to shoot our weapons correctly, safely, just the handling of the weapons alone. It was just, I think this is what also brought all of us together as a family. We trained, and it was hard, and it was hot out, and we were out in a big field on somebody's compound when we trained. Next time we get together, I will definitely have photos of all that because I have them somewhere. But it was just amazing, and then just the training that we got. I really loved playing the role of Sarah Connor, and I was there for about 10 years also, just like Jason.
Amazing. And yes,
I want to just add to her one thing. This is another example. It gives you a good example of what you have to go through. Universal absolutely said you cannot have live weapons in the show. I said, we have to have live weapons in the show. And they were like, no, you got to do it. I said, you want us to record sound effects of the shotgun going off and then time the actor to that? No matter how good we do it, it's always going to sound stupid. They wanted to have recorded effects of the machine gun when Jason and I mean, it was ludicrous. I said, no, we have to, it has to be, people have to feel the percussive, bah, 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 bah. They got to feel it. And boom, they got to feel it. And that was a battle that went all the way up to Jay. And they said, well, we have to add a guy to take care of the guns. And I said, well, add the guy. Yeah, add the guy. We have to do this, you know? So battle. But we got that one. And now try and imagine the show. With recorded shotgun sound effects.
No.
That's what I call the dumbing down of these shows. What happens is if there's not someone like me to fight for something,
right?
It just that's what happens. You get everyone puts their 2 cents in, and instead of everyone improving the show, now by the way, the entire team that worked in the show was improving the show. The sound guys, the tech guys, the AA. I mean, everybody was into that show. So those guys, us and them, the performers, we were trying to do something great. But up until that point, and I don't want to make a generalization, but really 90% of the man were doing everything they could to reduce this show to a mundane level of a bad theme park attraction. And if not for Jim Cameron, me up to a certain point, but then my relationship with Jim, when I could call him and say, hey, you got to back this real weapons thing. Hey, you got to back this, you got to back this. And he did. He always did. So the secret weapon.
That's amazing.
So I have to
Was there
say,
a point where they watched it and they finally looked at you and went, oh, now we get it.
Yeah.
It's better than that. I mean, it's pathetic, but they forced us. Ron Benson called me when I was in rehearsals. I don't know if you guys, if you were in the first company, you remember, we suddenly had to do a preview for the, remember we were still rehearsing and all of a sudden we weren't on the computer yet. We had to have a stage manager with the guy at the cycle, the guy all the guys were on headsets and we're queuing this like a Broadway show because it wasn't yet on the show system, the show control system. It was insane, really. And, I had to go out to the first preview audience. They just basically went out in the street and said, because they told me, and I called Ron, I said, Ron, we can't do it. We're not ready. We can't do a run through. Not in front of an audience. We can't do it. Got all the guys together and said, we got to do this, guys. We got to pull together. I went out and told the audience. I went up on your station, on Kimberly station.
Yeah.
Told the preview people who had just been hauled in. Basically, the ops guys went out in the street and said, "You want to see a preview of a new show? You want to see a preview?"
Oh my gosh!
So I'm going, crazy. Okay, this is a preview, and I just want to say, this is the first time. You're the first. Oh, everyone cheers! I said, well, the show could stop. That's all I really want to say. I want to say that the show may stop. We may have a hold. We may have to ask you to leave the theater halfway through the show. We don't know. You're really the first group. So, but Ron really wanted it because. Get this, because he wanted to have marketing guys at the exit because everyone was convinced. I'd have a visit by the executives 3 days before that. They thought this show was going to be the biggest disaster in Universal.
Wow.
Well, because when they came in, I told them, I said, guys, you can't see this. Nothing's glued together yet. I can show you a little. They wanted to see a run through. I said, it's not like that. it's too complex. I can show you a sequence and a sequence kind of in a sequence, but it's not glued together. So they came in and they watched, we threw together some stuff. I was watching their faces. They really, you could see in their faces, they were like, and one of them, whose name will remain silent, as they all left, it was Tom Williams and Ron Benson, all the biggies, and one guy stays behind. And I had fought in on my contract to have my name on that as the creative, as a director, the creator of the attraction. And I got it eventually. And this guy wants something. He goes, he leans at me and quietly goes, "You still want your name on this?" I said, "Plastered all over it. Put my name on every single thing. Do it." That's how bad they thought it was. Oh yeah. So you still want your? I'll never forget that. You still want?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So anyway, so we pulled that whole show together. I get a call in my hotel room. I gave everybody a break after that because everyone had to hustle to get everything together. I thought we'd go back into rehearsals the next day, try and put the show, glue it all. When we say glue it together, it means that every single thing that is happening in that show has to be on the show control system, and then the show monitor system for safety, which monitors in milliseconds every single show command, every lighting command, every animatronic command, every single command is on that system so that it all works, right? And a show monitor system that protects all of them so that if anything gets even minutely out of sync, it knows to shut the show down, right? So none of that's been done. So we have to finalize everything, get that done. But that night I get a call from Ron about 8:30, 9:30 at my hotel room. Got to do it again tomorrow. What? Got to do it again tomorrow. Got to do it twice tomorrow. What? No, we can't do that. I'm trying to get the show. Blah, 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 blah. No, you have to do it. Why? Because on the marketing exit, we got 98.8%. It is the highest rated thing we've ever had in the park.
Wow.
It's even, and he said this, if you know theme park show, this means it even beats the rides. No show is supposed to ever rate.
Wow.
That's great to hear.
So he says, so it has to be an accident. It has to be that there's something wrong here. We have to test it again, because it can't be right. This show cannot have been that highly rated. So we had to do 2 shows. I don't know if you guys remember. We had to do 2 shows the next day, and we had to have 2 hours in between because, again, we're hand setting everything. We're resetting everything like a Broadway show, right? Everything has to be reset. Everything has to be checked. Both shows out of the park. 98, wow. 97, 98. Will you recommend to friends? Definitely. Will you? All the key things. And Ron couldn't believe it. He goes, "This is unbelievable. We have to open the show next week." It has to open. And that was ahead of time. But we did it. We did open. We opened a week earlier than they had intended. And a tribute to all of them as well as all the text on the thing. But right up until, I'm not kidding you, until just before opening, they were convinced. In fact, the rumor going around, because some of my friends at Universal heard it, this is Goddard's Titanic. And remember, that's when Jim's Titanic was getting all the bad press. It was going to.
Oh my gosh!
This is Goddard's Titanic. So, thank you to all you guys because we proved them so wrong.
Wrong.
This is so good to hear this.
Behind the scenes.
Oh my gosh!
I remember doing that show, and I remember the feeling. I'm not kidding, guys. I remember the feeling of looking down because we would do rappelling all the time, and tech runs and everything like that with no audience. You would just see. I'd have to look to see like where Gary was sitting or Mergenthal or whoever people were sitting in the cast. And I remember looking down and there were people below the rappel point. And I remember going like, I remember being 19 years old thinking like, holy shit, this is what we're actually going to fucking do this thing. Because for a minute, it just felt like we would just come in to watch the 3D, take a nap here and there. And like, do you know what I mean? Because it felt like so long back then. It felt like, because I remember we started our first day we started, it was like February. And then it's April, it just seemed like a long fucking time, and I remember finally looking down and you hear the pre-show music, playing. And I remember looking down, I remember like this fucking feeling of like, oh my God, like I felt like I was gonna be in a fight. And I remember like we did the show and we were sitting there like, holy fuck, it like fucking worked. And I remember because it was me, Bobby Talbert, Lisa Walcock, Joan Donnelly, I believe, and I can't remember who the T1000 was, who did the first show, and I remember like the butthurtness of the other cast members because they were like, "You did a show in front of God, oh my god," you know. And then I remember then the next day I felt butthurt because Dave Sadler did the next day and he did 2 shows. I was like, this motherfucker did twice as many shows as me. And you know, but shout out to David. He was a really great guy, and I love David Sadler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the feeling. I remember I remember all that, Gary, man. I just remember like you were talking to us backstage, and we were all like sitting around going, it fucking worked. Like, holy shit. And like I remember here's another thing. Do you remember the gasp, Gary, of the original T1000? When the T1000 lift, and you guys know this, Kiana. I think even Christy, it was already shit by the time you got there. Our show. I'm saying ours. I'm not lying. We can talk about this.
It was. Yeah.
But when the T1000 for, you know, and it was like, you know, when I remember running into the audience and hearing them going, you know, Sir John Connor, and then you heard, whoa, and the whole audience started clapping. Do you remember that, Gary?
Yeah, amazing.
It was because the lighting. The lighting changed, but at first that lighting was so cool.
Was spectacular. The lift was spectacular.
It was so well done initially because they before Universal came in and fucked it. And that's the polite way of saying it. The lift used to travel at like at least like what 20% faster, right, Mike? You would probably remember that. At least 20-30% faster. And then the way the light, it was a boom light. And then it was like for X amount of time later, you guys leave, sign off to Universal, they make it a shit show. It comes up, it's like there's a light, then you see the fucking guy's head come out of the ground. Yeah, I mean, it was just like this is the beginning of the end, you know, for
that's
3.5.
That's a magic magic seconds are important. That's a magic.
So actually, that was a combination of things.
Right when it goes right, and you change the lights right on. It has to be right on the beat, or it doesn't work. You give it away.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
It's a combination of things. It was the lighting, the speed of the lift, and also they added safety buttons on the lift, and that killed it. The safety buttons killed it.
Fucking safety buttons.
Who needs buttons?
Who needs to be safe?
Do you guys remember? Do you guys remember when they had the stunt? So the rigging team or whoever it was came through and they showed us the T1000 lift for the first time. And they put crash pads down, and dude, they were shooting dudes up like 15, 20 feet in the air.
They got airborne.
You remember that? No, like no, I'm not lying. They were like literally catapulted because they would be squatted, and then if they would stand up really fast at the same time, it literally would shoot them like
airborne.
Jay, I used to do that every morning in the tech run.
Yeah,
it was the best. You could literally jump off the lift and land on the stage down below.
Yeah,
you're lucky I didn't see that because I might have worked that into the show.
Yeah, I remember when they let us all do it. They all and we got to feel what it felt like. And I remember like it was like oh shit. Then later it turned into like the geriatric version.
Yes, and Gary again. You talking about the weapons? I'm so thankful that you did that because again, opening Japan, while they came up with prop guns that made noise and did stuff, it was never the same. It's just not the same as live.
In terms of the 4D effect, the shotgun, what was great was you got the smell. The smell.
Yeah.
You didn't even tell on that because those shells would go.
Still trying to get rid of it.
Seconds later, you'd smell it. So in the audience, you're thinking, well, that's a fucking shotgun.
Yeah.
Great. But the other thing is important, Dale Dye. We didn't have Dale Dye on the budget because, of course, we didn't think that far ahead when we budgeted the show and we started moving production stuff. But as we got closer, we thought we should have military training, and so we went to Universal, and there again, well, what do you need these guys for? What do you need these guys? Well, because there's going to be weapons. That was our lead, weapons, and but also it's a very athletic thing, and these guys need to know. And the Connors, you start with the Connors. The Connors should know how military stuff happens because that's their thing. They're trained with weapons stuff. So we got Dale budgeted, and the benefit of Dale, which even I didn't count on, was what was described before, which was the camaraderie that that time that you spent with him as a company, what he drilled into all of you. Again, how do you explain to Universal, to the executives, the effect that has on the company overall? That's a really hard thing to sell, right? And that wasn't part of what we sold, but it is definitely, to me, it was immediately apparent that you had that camaraderie, and that helped the show. I mean, you know, and I agree with you. You know, don't even get me going, all the changes they made. They used to say it's too loud. I said, why? Someone complained. I said, well, you know, it's loud. It's correct. If you get 10 people in one show that all tell you it's too loud, then I'll consider taking it down. But you mean every time someone says it's too loud, you're going to go in there and mess with? I wish that after we do a show, we could put acrylic plastic over the lighting thing and over the sound thing, and have so no one can fucking touch it, you know?
Yes.
Because
Gary, I remember when you guys left and you signed that over to Landmark, signed it over to Universal. First thing that happens, sound fucking went from 102 dBs. I remember that number down to 96. That's what the numbers are. I remember it was a 102 dB down to 96. Then they took the Sarah Connors round. She had like, what was it, Kiana? Remember, it was like
10.
It was 10 rounds. They dropped out to like 6. Like 6.
Yeah, I think it was more than 10 at first. And they were like, oh, no, that's too much.
Yeah.
At one point, we had a full.
Yeah, you had a full. It was like it was like I'm on it right now. Then it went on. That was it, done. And then the Terminator shotgun wad was also taken in half. Because when
it
you
was
guys
taken in half, correct?
Yeah, when you guys first came out, it was like, because I don't know, like you probably as I'm saying, by the time you got to LA and all that, Christy, they already fucking snipped our nuts. And so like, and I just remember, the old capacities. You guys wanted it was like 27 shows for the day was like the capacity that Landmark wanted to do to maintain the integrity and all the ride system and everything. I remember doing 52 shows. Kiana, you guys remember that?
We had
shows.
56.
There was one year we had a 63 because it was New Year's Eve and we went past New Year's Eve.
Yeah. 60, yeah. But I'm saying 52 was like the average. In peak. 52 fucking shows.
Yeah.
And we got Mexicans, John Connors. Oh, don't get me started, guys. Grab a drink. It's gonna be a long fucking night.
Hey, going back to what you were saying about the camaraderie. So we didn't have you, Gary, in Japan, but we had Adam, we had Julia, now Julia Dye, and Dale Dye, and he broke us up into teams, and it was very funny because they made it a competition, and it was, you know, cast against cast, and about 3/4 of the way through, they split it up again. You're like, but that's my John. What do you took my John from me? You know, there was a big camaraderie, and then it flipped and, you know, moved around. That Dale had a lot to do with that.
So let me just, for those that are listening or watching, whatever it is, we're saying Captain Dale Dye. I'll just tell you a few of the movies that he did. He did Platoon. He was the weapons expert in that. He did Saving Private Ryan was a big one for him. He did that shortly after he did the opening for Terminator 2 3D in Florida. He was on the Saving Private Ryan. So you got. And he did the same. And it's funny. I remember reading an article in like Entertainment Weekly or something like that about how he's talking about, you know, Tom Hanks and Tom Sizemore and all these guys. And he took them to like Northern England for like a week up there and put them through the same ringer that we went through as, you know, lonely little Florida theme park, T2-3D cast and crew. And we were, you know, like Kiana said, we're in the middle of this orange grove out in the middle of, you know, Central Florida. And we're running in formation, I don't know what I've been told, you know, doing stuff like that. And he's running. Yeah, there's Goddard.
Oh, nice, Jason.
Under Siege, another one. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
That's great.
Dude, and this guy's got like, four Purple Hearts.
Being the best dude ever.
Look, just IMDb or Google this guy. His list of like accomplishments are ridiculous. And he's like the most sweetest, super nice guy. You would never know that he is a Marine badass, basically. Yeah. And he was just like, it was like, we're like Kiana said, we're doing this, you know, training and stuff in this orange groves, and we're doing close quarter combat training where we got a Terminator like myself, 6'5", 240 pounds, and you got Kiana who's 5 foot nothing, running at me, trying to knock me over, and I got to throw her over my shoulder. I mean, it was a hoot, man. It was crazy.
It was-
Like,
So a funny story about him. I mean, he is a legitimate badass. And a funny story about him is we were doing an obstacle course, and my Terminator, his thumbnail bent completely backwards, lifted straight up, and went over to Dale. And Dale just put his thumb on it, put it back down. I was like, "All right, get out there, Seaman."
Oh,
oh,
he was
yeah, because
I'll give you one more example of that. I'll jump over to the Star Trek attraction. Just again, the studio thing. And I don't want to keep putting down the studios, but it is interesting. So when we did Star Trek, we had tons of guys that had to be part of the Star Trek fleet for the Star Trek attraction in Las Vegas, right? We wanted to bring in Dale Dye. And the Paramount executives were like, what are you going to do? Well, I want to bring them in because, he'll train them in military things. Well, Star Trek's not military. I said, it's not military. You have admirals and captains, and it's military.
Yeah.
And they went, oh yeah, I guess you're right. And so we finally got it approved. And one of the reasons, again, when Star Trek the attraction opened, I can't speak for it later, but for when it opened, man, everyone commented on the fact that every single person on board the Starship Enterprise in uniform, they were military. They were, because Dale drilled them.
Beautiful.
yeah.
The guy,
Mhm.
that guy, his team, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he's great.
all right, Eddie, get us back on track.
Yeah.
You saw that too, huh?
Dude, this is just totally like I'm literally the embodiment of everyone that's going to be listening to this. So just kind of just taken aback and taking it all in. So, but we'll go down. So we talked to Kiana. Mike, how did John come into your life? And then we'll see where that leads us.
So I actually started as a tech, and before the opening, they figured out that they didn't have enough Johns, and Merg, the stage manager of the show, in the middle of the day is like, "Hey, I need you to go run over to Wild West and do an agility test." And so before opening, I was hired on as a John by accident,
Wow.
and then a couple of years after that, I picked up T1000 as a skill and got to go to Japan. So thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. You funded a lot of things for me too.
That's good.
Out of the two roles, I don't know if you answered this before, but out of the two roles, which did you have more fun playing?
That's hard to say because it is, like Jason said, rappelling from the ceiling, running around, and there's more to play with when you're a John Connor.
Right.
However, if you're a T1000, you're done after the first act, and then you can just screw around with everybody else that has to still do show. I'm not
Take a
going to
nap.
say I did that, but
Jeff, you're muted.
Jeff.
Well,
He's okay.
I know, right? Duh. As we like to say, T1000 is called light duty on the Terminator thing. And I'll tell you the story if you want to hear it, but I don't think you want to hear the light duty story.
Do we want?
I
do we want to
do.
hear it?
I remember the light duty story.
All right,
Can
so
you hear
really
it?
quick, we had a T1000, and during Halloween at Universal, he was pulled to go over and do the Bill and Ted's show over at the Wild West Stunt Theater, and he's rehearsing during the show, and he's
remember
playing. Now this is Dave Franzine, by the way. He's in case Dave.
Oh
In case he's listening. So Dave is he's playing the part of Jason from the Halloween series, and there's a part during the show for the Halloween Horror Night show where he had to go through into the mine shaft at the Wild West Stunt Show, and there was a chain link fence in the back, and he had to go through that and get out the back before it blew up. So he basically had to go really quick underneath this chain link fence and get out the back. He had like maybe 10 seconds to get out. It was in a hurry, but whatever. So they're doing rehearsals. This is before the show opened for Halloween Horror Nights. And he's going in there and he's going through the chain link fence and he catches his hand on the fence. And it just kind of tears the middle part of your fingers and it messes up his hand pretty good. So he's got it this bandage and stuff. And they're like, yeah, so you can't do the role here at Bill and Ted. You can go back and still do T1000.
Because it's light duty.
this bitch comes back with a fucking thing on his hand, and he's like all like fucked up and stuff, and he should be like folding envelopes and stuff, but he's doing T1000
Light
the
duty.
Terminator because he can. He's hurt, but he can still do T1000. So from then on, the T1000s got no respect for as far as like their at all. Like I'm like, all right, pump the brakes there, light duty, because we're fine. We'll carry the show from here. We're good. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. All right, Jason.
Mike did a good job.
Jason, how did John come to play you?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what it was. Well, okay, so at the time when I heard about the Gary will remember this, or you guys remember, it was called Project 640.
Right.
Was the original name for the show. Anyway, at the time I was working at the Jaws ride at Universal. I was a skipper on the boat and did the whole Jaws show. And my stage manager at the time, he got invited to a meeting about the new Terminator thing that was going to be. We heard in the park there was going to be a Terminator roller coaster, an indoor roller coaster, that was going to be the show. That's what that we were told. And as it came along and everything like that, that's what every Terminator. Oh, yeah, they're building a roller coaster over there. There's my wife. Very faithful her, guys. She needs it. So at the time, I remember very specifically. I was leaving a shift at the Jaws attraction. I was clocking out, and my stage manager said to me, he was like, "Latona, everyone called me my last name. Hey, Latona, can I show you something? And you can't tell anybody you saw it from me, and blah blah blah." And I was just like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm like, is he going to show me his fucking dick? Like, what am I going to see here?" And he says, "I just came from a meeting, and the Terminator, that it's not a roller coaster. It's this like 3D stunt show." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he said, "It's about Terminator 2. And I saw, and he had the press kit. Now, I turned out years later, actually, I don't remember who gave it to me, either Adam or Gary or someone on the opening team gave me one of the T2 press kits. And it sucks, Eddie, no. So but guys, when I was living in Singapore, my storage got robbed. And when I came back to America, to Vegas, to all of my things, I probably got like $100,000 worth of collectibles, all got stolen. All of my memorabilia from Terminator. Like I had a whole roll of the 70 mil or the film. That when they replaced the film, like I had, and so I was cutting into pieces, and I was going to send it to Eddie. Came back anyway, found out all my stuff was robbed. Anyway, so what was I saying? Oh, so and he opens up the press kit for Terminator, and he's like, "Dude, can I just show you something?" He goes, because I remember I had really long hair at the time. I was working at Jaws. It was like this, like fucking, trying to grip the surfer vibe, I guess. And he was like, "Dude, they're gonna have the kid Ed Furlong. You look just like him. I just saw these photos." And he opens up and shows me the press kit, and I'm like, this is, like I said, 19-year-old me going like, "Holy shit, wait, really? What? There's a fucking Terminator. I can get out of Jaws, get into entertainment." I didn't know what it was, but I wanted to do it. And I saw, like, for like 10 seconds, a photo of Eddie Furlong that would have been a still from the shot from the 3D film that they shot with Cameron. And lo and behold, I see finally that there's auditions for it. Obviously Kiana and Braz were at those auditions, and I showed up at the audition. I got a photo here the night before. So I showed up to the audition. If you know the the show, this is me at 19 auditioning for the show. And I'm wearing this outfit, and it's the same. You can see me in the making of T2 3D when Gary's talking about the live actors and stuff. It's my audition footage. There's a quick glimpse of Braz, but they show my audition footage. But then if you note, and then this is a photo of my very first day in the costume. So hold on, I'm gonna put them side by side. Forgive the pouts, guys. Forgive the pouts. I've grown since then. But where's my camera? All right, but you know what I'm saying. But that's the what I auditioned in, and then that's the obviously the first day of costumes. So I could imagine what Gary. I'd love to hear Gary Goddard what he has to say when I walked in, going like, "This motherfucker looks like the dude." Gary Goddard probably had to change his shorts. He probably.
I said immediately. I hope this guy can act because he came in in the coat with the headband with the whole thing, and he looked like John Connor. I go, okay, I hope this guy can act. And we put him through his paces. We made him do some barrel rolls and a few, simple things, nothing tough. But yeah, the moment he walked in, it was like, okay, we know we have at least one John Connor now, and we knew, remember we have to cast. We had to cast like 5 or 6 of each role because of the way theme park things work. But I felt good because you don't know, you're in Orlando. You don't, is anyone going to show up that really looks like this? Because that's the last piece of this puzzle that I've talked about before is you got to cast people that can bring these characters to life within the format of this thing we're doing. So when he walked in, it was a relief actually. And he knows he was the first one cast because I was like, okay, that's him,
Thanks, Gary.
I will tell that story too. So, what's funny is, and I don't know if I've ever even told Kiana or Jeff this or anybody. So that
you told me.
I did tell you.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't fucking know.
That was good.
Wait 1 second, Jason. By the way, the other thing about him was for all of you actors and actresses, he was so enthusiastic and he was so like, whatever you want me to do, he was like the guy, he's like raring to go. He's like, and so that can-do attitude, in addition to the fact that he looked the part and everything was, it was that's the kind of person you want. And he was that way. Actually, most of the cast. Once we were in rehearsals, everybody was can-do, but he exhibited, you could tell he wanted that role.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I knew what Eddie Furlong looked like, and I'm like, I actually look more like John Connor grown up than Eddie Furlong does. That motherfucker looked like that's why I thought Dave Sadler actually looked more like John Connor than me. Or more like Eddie Furlong. I looked more like what John Connor was supposed to look like. If Eddie didn't turn into shit, he could have been as handsome as me. Anyway, but I remember doing that original the thing where you said with the little barrel rolls and stuff like that, and I had like whoever the guy was, a Terminator, and then they brought us back to do the reading, and it was Jeff and I, and you and me, bros, we did the reading together. I remember I walked in and we kind of were going over the lines. I was like, thank God this guy's taller than me, because like the other Terminator was like 5'9", I'm like 5'8", and I remember like doing the scene with Jeff. And I was like, man, this is really cool. And I was like, man, I can't see how I'm not going to get this part. And then funny enough, like I said, before, how I knew I got the part of John Connor was I used to go to Pleasure Island back in Orlando. They had the Downtown Disney, the Pleasure Island. And I used to go to, me and my buddy Matt, we'd always used to go to the nightclub, the disco, 8 tracks. And they played all the 70s music and stuff like that. Wow. And I remember being in 8 tracks one night and just being there dancing and sweating, trying to pick up chicks. And I look up and, 8 tracks had was the dance floor was sunk in and there was like a balcony that was around the dance floor. And every time I looked up, I saw this dude who looked like George Lucas staring at me, and I'm just like, who the fuck is it? And I'm like, maybe he's looking at someone on the dance floor, maybe whatever, And then I'm there, we're dancing still, whatever. I turn around, guess who's standing behind me? George Lucas. And I'm just like, all right, this is weird, right? And he's just standing there. He's not saying anything. He's fucking sweating and dancing. Gary's sweaty as shit, right? And Gary, you would be sweaty. And I'm thinking he's not just staring. He's like fucking dancing. And they would have Fitbits back then, Gary. I would have loved to see those numbers. Anyway, but and I turn around and I feel a tap on my shoulder and I hear this guy goes, "You're Jason." And I was just like, because we're in a nightclub, and I was just like, okay, this is so weird. I'm like, yeah. Wow. And he was just like, and I was like, yeah, how do you know that? He was like, you auditioned for my show. And I was like, what? I'm like, well, audition for your show? He's like, Terminator. And I was like, what? And I remember going outside. He was like, I don't know if I told you, but I'm Gary. I'm the guy who made the show. And yeah, you got the part. And I was just like, and I was just like, I remember going wait, either this guy is like some kind of wizard storyteller, like, or like I was
Oh
just
my
like,
God.
like it wasn't like, hey, like I got the part, you can sign the contract. It's in my hotel room. Wink, wink. You know? And no, it was just he was just like he just told me like, hey, yeah, you got your cast. I cast you in the show. And I remember, we got like the phone calls or whatever, and I remember they were like, "Hey, this is what you know," and they made it official, and they offered me the part. And but yeah, no, it was one of those things. I grew up like watching the Terminator 1 on HBO, and it was like I used to love horror movies. I mean, I still do. I love horror movies, and no horror movies ever scared me. Like The Exorcist, I'm watching these movies at like 10, whatever. 8, 10 years old when I was watching Terminator 1, these movies didn't scare me. When I saw Terminator 1 for the first time, it fucking terrified me. I remember being so scared of it because I was like, the concept was so scary. Like, and not like the future and time travel, but just what if someone who just didn't give a shit, didn't obey the rules, like, it's like, oh, go to a safe spot, no one would hurt you there. And, it's like, yeah, but you and any of us can have that power. And I thought it was terrifying. And when T2 came out, and I remember being, Eddie and I are the same age, and Edward Furlong, obviously, who plays the John Connor, everyone was always like, "Hey, you look like that kid from the Terminator movie, you look like that kid." And I was kind of same size, I'm a white guy, you know what I mean, kind of dark hair, green eyes, and we were the same age. So growing up and hearing that was like a thing, and I could potentially be John Connor, I was like, man, this is the reason God moved me to Orlando and all this stuff like that. And I'm so forever grateful. I'm at my desk right now, and I got my little Arnold here. Hi guys, who it is? It's me. But Terminator opened so many doors for me. It not only in Universal, because I auditioned for the Beetlejuice show, I don't know how many times, and they never, I was a ride and show kid, so they never moved me over. Mike would know what it's like. It's like, when you see you as a tech, it's like, these people have very much blinders. And you don't know nothing about that, Gary. They got like I'm speaking of you too. But they got blinders on, and until I remember they saw me at Terminator. I remember, them coming to me. Cheryl Bott, if you guys remember her, she saw me again. She saw me dancing at Pleasure Island. She came up to me and she was like, "I didn't know you could dance like that." I was like, "Motherfucker, I auditioned for you so many times." And she was just like, and I said, "Hey, put me in the Beetlejuice show." And she was like, "You can sing." And I took her down to the bathroom at Pleasure Island between the male and the female stall. There was a little echoey water thing.
Stop, no more.
Family show. It was theme park.
No, I'm saying I took her down to, there was like where the water fountains were that separated the male and the female, and because it was echoed in there. And I went and I sang the Wolfman song from the Beetlejuice show. And next thing I know, the next day I'm in training. But like I said, Terminator opened just so many opportunities. I think Terminator, I attribute it to me working in LA, working in Los Angeles, and then being cast in Singapore. I met my wife in Singapore. She ain't Chinese, by the way. But I met my wife in Singapore, and but again, it's my whole life. I owe all those things literally to the Terminator show. I know I'm funny. I can't help it, motherfuckers.
So, to clarify, when I was there doing that the Terminator thing, the Pleasure Island had that 8 tracks, and someone home. Here's, you guys don't know this, but I was pretty much in that theater around the clock. And what happens in these things, when I got there, it was a little disorganized. So I organized shifts. So, because everybody needed to be in the theater. The tech guys needed to get the motorcycle working. They needed, so many hours. The lighting guys needed so many hours. The audio, the animatronics, the guys, the live actors, everybody. So when I got there, I started organizing shifts. And I put all the tech shifts at the night so that these guys could work during the day. But what happens on those night shifts, when you sit with the programmers, like Mark Plogstad was in charge of the animatronics to get in the programming, the show control, all that kind of stuff. And Mark and I, we've known each other for 40 years, working on projects over the years. So when I got there, I was happy to see it was Mark, because Mark and I have, a good wah, as the Chinese say. We get along. So the animatronics look like shit, and I said, we got to do this sequence. I'd work through sequence. The way you do it, you have to think of these shows when you're using the show control system in sequences that you get. For instance, right now we're talking about when the figures came up, the animatronics came up, they lock and load, they aim, they fire one. Before they fire, the things come down from the top. So now think about that. That segment to the track has to be programmed. Every lighting cue, every audio cue, every movement, every show control unit, everything has to be controlled, timed together. I do that. I work with them. We get this, and then they need 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours. Okay, this is before cell phones, guys. This is a pager time. And I had a pager only for that. I had a pager for the show so they could reach me. So what I found out was doing these night shifts was there was this place. I'm a 60s, 70s kid. When I found out there was this club that played 70s music, Motown music and stuff, that's my era. So it'd be nighttime. It's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and they go, "How long you need?" 3 hours. Pleasure Island. When you need me, and they would page me, and I'd get back at midnight or 1 a.m. and then we'd continue from there. And then I'd finally go to my hotel, and then I'd get up and do it all again. So the other benefit for me is going to Pleasure Island almost every night, for 3 hours, 2 hours, 4, whatever it was to kill time waiting for them. I lost about 20 pounds during the summer.
I told you about you sweaty. He's sweaty.
Well, they made a fortune on me because every time I got sweaty, I'd go to the retail shop and buy a new T-shirt and put the T-shirt on.
That's why when Gary's like, I cast you in the show, and I was like, I was like, no, I'm like, there was a fat guy to look like George Lucas. Now there's some skinny guys. Like, who's that guy? Oh, that's it. Oh shit, you're out of fuck. You might have been working
not
out.
Not by the end of the summer though. I was dropped the weight.
I think we can all say though the same kind of thing that Jason said and Kiana said. Like, it opened so many doors and it changed so many of our lives. And I wasn't even supposed to be in it when I auditioned. I auditioned just for like regular old actor things at Universal, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to be opening Islands of Adventure, and we really want you for one of the shows there. But for now, we'll just stick you over at Terminator." And so, like, I just got stuck there, and then it became like half my life being
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then I didn't get cast at Islands of Adventure.
You would have if you
You
could
got that
sing.
light duty too, Christy. They put you on light duty.
Shut up, Mike.
Yeah, light duty, right?
And to round it out before we go on further to some other stuff, Jeff, how did Arnold come into your life?
Nobody cares about Jeff.
Nobody cares about. Am I unmuted? Okay, let's make sure I have that right. Okay, fine. Whatever, guys. Well, like Jason, I was actually working at the park as well. I'm a singer, so I was actually singing in a doo-wop group in front of Mel's Drive-In, singing 50s music, acapella stuff called the Hollywood High Tones. I know, and there's another story about it. I remember when I got cast in Terminator, we're all sitting around like swapping stories, and I can remember sitting there and everyone's talking about what they do, and somebody's like, "Oh yeah, one of our Terminators is a singer. Like, who's that?" And I'm like, "Guys, it's me." They're like, "What? Really?" And so, but anyway, so yeah, I'm singing in this doo-wop group at Hollywood High Tones, and during our show, I would be like this goofy character type. And I did an Arnold impersonation in the show. I would do this whole thing like, "Stop eating other people's lunches. What are you doing? Come on, right here." So, right. And people would laugh. And then people would laugh. So I did a pretty good Arnold impersonation, like vocally. And, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". I'm like 240 pounds at the time.
I'm so happy for you.
And so, like, I remember hearing like Jason. I hear the rumblings of like at one point I heard Jurassic Park was coming to Universal, and Terminator was going to L.A. I heard that, and then they're like, "Oh, the last minute they're like, no, we're going to put Jurassic Park in L.A. and Terminator is going to be in Orlando, so it's going to be a Terminator show." And I'm like, oh, "That's kind of cool." So then I'm on a special event. It's like night. It's at night, and I'm sitting there as the Hollywood Icons, and I see this posting in the green room that I'm breaking in that says, "Terminator live action stunt show looking for lookalikes, stunt people, yada yada," and Arnold Schwarzenegger's, and they're looking for the height ranges. It's the height range that they had on the audition posting was 5'11" to 6'2" or 6'3", and I'm 6'5", and I'm like, well, guess I can't do that. And then I was talking to my buddy, like, "Oh, you should go anyway, man. Just go. It'll be fun. It'll be, I don't know, whatever." I'm like, ah. So I was like, "When is it?" So I look and I go, "I guess I got the day off. I might as well. We'll see what happens." And I show up at this audition, and everybody and his brother's there, dressed in leather jackets and T-shirts, trying to look like a Terminator. There were people there that should not have been dressed like Terminators. There was a lot of people, like, I guess posers, you want to call them, whatever it is. And like Gary said, they're casting, anywhere from 4 or 5 people per role. So you have 5 people in each role. So they're looking for 5 people to do this Terminator role. So I go in and I do my first audition. And I honestly believe to this day, because I could talk like Arnold and I sound like Arnold, it does make the look come alive. Because I don't think I look like Arnold. I can put on sunglasses and I kind of then I look like Arnold. But as soon as I start talking like Arnold like this, and I get the conversation with Arnold, like, they can make people say that. And it just,
Didn't you wear prosthetics though in the beginning too?
Well, yeah. So, that was after we got cast and stuff. But, in the original audition, I think you didn't have to talk like Arnold because it was all his voice in the script and everything. So it was a dub over. So people ask me all the time, they're like, "Oh, wow. So you did the show. So, you have to talk like Arnold." And I would, because I could, but others couldn't. So yes, I could fake it that's my voice, no
one else could.
But nobody else could. And
no.
So that's how I became a Terminator, and got cast in Terminator. And Kiana said, and others, I was already around Universal, so I was already on the radar with the show directors like Adrian Lepeltier, rest in peace, Michael Morman, Cheryl Bott, a lot of people on that, at the time, even Jim Timon was a vice president at the time. So a lot of people on that show direction team knew of me and my singing ability. And like Jason didn't know I could actually be a stunt guy. I was athletic. I did a lot of like basketball and other sports. And I always loved, throwing myself around and getting dirty and being physical, but never did any kind of stunts, never had any kind of stunt training. So Terminator was my first stunt show, even though it wasn't as stunt heavy as I think, the original concept was supposed to be. I think the original concept had a motorcycle jump onto the stage. Maybe I'm wrong in that. Say maybe Gary can talk to that, but I do know that the bike was supposed to come from somewhere, and it was supposed to be and they actually said motorcycle experience on the stunt audition.
Wow!
I never rode a motorcycle in my life before that. I do now, but and actually being a Terminator actually made me want to ride a motorcycle. So I actually went out and bought a motorcycle and learned how to ride a motorcycle. I did actually from there branch out into other shows at Universal. So I was the audio of the singing group that I was a part of was a contracted act. So I wasn't actually an employee at Universal. I had a contracted employee. So Terminators, when I got hired at Universal as an employee of Universal in 1996, like Jason had said, it was right around beginning, middle of February, somewhere in there. And we were in rehearsals for almost 2.5, 3 months. And training, and it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Honestly, it ruined my life. I lived it. It was a tough time to endure being around those kinds of people day in and day out. Not a laugh to be found in that building.
No, we had no fun at all.
Now we can say. His Arnold accent almost got him not cast, but he was physically right, so we still took him.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Wait. Let me. Hold on a second. So here's a fun, and most of you probably have heard that I've told this story many times. And Eddie, I think I told you this story. So Arnold, they shot all the movie stuff, and they shot in these with these 3D cameras, and they're very loud on set. They were like these big, massive cameras, and they sound like jet engines. They're like, woo! So you can get no audio on set at all for voices and any kind of speaking stuff because of the 3D cameras. So everything had to be in ADR for the post stuff. But Arnold at the time was filming Jingle All the Way. That's what he was on the film for. And he was like on set all day from 6 a.m. till 11 at night. Busy, busy, busy. And so they did not have the actual Arnold voiceover for the T2 3D ride. And I'm sitting, I'll never forget, I was sitting there, and it was probably like 2 weeks before we opened, maybe a week or two before we opened. And we're running off like some, I think it was Steve Hanneman or something. His voice was like, "How about to side right down?"
It was affirmative.
It was
this place.
horrible. Like, just
Exactly.
you didn't get the essence of like Arnold there, you know, like you just like, what the fuck is this guy? And so Gary and Adam came over to me one day, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to do us a favor. You need to come with us for a couple hours." And I'm like, "Where are we going?" So they took me across the street. They took me across the street to a place called Sound Deluxe.
They took
Sound Deluxe at the time was this like Oscar-winning, like amazing sound studio. So we walk in there, and they put me in this little sound booth. They start having me read.
They put us in the sound booth.
You came in after. They're like, we'll bring in us. Whatever. Jason, this is my story.
I put you in our stories. You were in my audition. You were in
You're
my
not in my story here. So they bring Jason and I across, and I think Lisa Walcott was there too, because they needed her to do some voiceover stuff. But
targeting.
So they basically had us do the entire script for the whole show, and they had us, in there and improvising and doing all different things, adding little lines. I know Jason did a lot of there's some added voices and stuff that they needed in the background for Eddie Furlong, so Jason's voice was in that. And then it was like one of those like, okay, we got what we wanted, and then the story goes like Arnold went into the recording studio like 2 days before we opened and recorded everything. I don't know. I think it's still my voice, but whatever. I didn't get a royalty for it. I think it's still me.
Of course it is. It is.
I remember the real story. Gary, you can confirm that what I'm saying is the truth.
Wait, was I there? Can I be a part of the story?
You were fucking 100% there. No, because I remember just us doing the thing, and like I remember us laughing when we hear the playback, because in our heads, like I remember you doing, I'm like, dude, I can't tell the difference between you and Arnold. We're like, all right, play it back. You're like, I said I'd be back. I'm like, that's you. Like it was horrible. It was shit. And we were all laughing, and no, because I remember Gary, they Universal or someone, whether it was Universal or when they did one of the first previews, they said they weren't understanding why the T1000 was using the robots. They wanted the John to say time portal, and they wanted, because they said there were certain things that weren't clarified without the dialogue. The retargeting thing, was Lisa Wolfalk. Yeah, that's it. Wolfalk. How do you say
Walcott.
Fuck me. Anyway, and Walcott. Sorry, yeah. And
yeah,
so they
had a line too.
They where was her line in?
Brenda was
Brenda said something.
Sarah Connor line.
Oh yeah, Brenda.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
Right. Oh, she said
Get down, John.
No. Oh yeah, get down, John. Don't let him see you.
John, it's him. Yeah.
No. She says, "Get down, John. Don't let him see you." My lines they kept in were obviously he's using the robots, and the mom, it's him, and there's an extra go in the fun fact in Act 2 that I say because Eddie goes go, and you hear one more line, go. And it's a little bit different.
So you're the high pitched whiny one.
Yeah, I'm the high pitched whiny one, 100%. And then I remember going to LA and seeing the show in LA, and I'm like, dude, they still have my fucking voice in this show. I thought I was gonna be in Japan. I thought they're gonna I thought I was gonna have to put some tweak on me, and I'm like, what? But apparently they got a Japanese kid to do that show.
Jesus God.
I just know. I'm just imagine if I got 1 penny every time they play that show between LA and dude. I'd have a chairman out of the Elephant Man's bones. That's how rich I'd be.
Oh, so hey, Jason, you mentioned your all your collectibles and stuff were stolen out of your locker,
Yeah,
and you
that's-
mentioned
yeah,
the film, and I too still have some of that film here.
Yeah.
So
Are you just
So-
trying to hurt his feelings?
so here, this is here. I'll
You
actually,
stole it?
no. So no, listen. It was in a dumpster.
No, wait.
No, wait, hear me out. It wasn't
Wait,
during
hold
show, okay? The show was
In the
running. It was in like in
dumpster?
the middle. They're like, what? I'm like, yes, look at this. Take it and go.
Stop this.
So it was a showdown situation.
went up
But,
there.
anyway, so yeah, you can kind of see here. This is after they go through the portal. There's the bike right there, of Eddie and Arnold on the bike.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I got I got a shit ton. We got like the whole sequence of them going through. Like, so Gary, you were talking about how we wanted to draw the audience into the future, and that's what this sequence is here. Is like that going through the portal. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, I kept this. This is one of my prized possessions from the.
Is Jason crying?
I know. Are you doing that just to hurt Jason?
That's
Yeah,
so
pretty
wrong.
much. Pretty much. It's too bad he wasn't in the voiceover ADR thing too. You know, yeah, it is what it is. You know, we can all be super.
I think this is the guy. I found the guy who broke into my storage.
I know.
And this
Yeah, I found this really weird, like, press packet, you know. I don't know. I got like this bandana and a wig. I don't know whose it is, but hey, you know.
You got a copy of David Hasselhoff's Underpants signed? I know
So
you.
the funny thing is, I have the film, but someone swiped my jacket, my opening jacket.
Oh,
I remember that. Mine too. I
Like,
got mine
what?
stolen too.
Bras.
I got like 3 of those bad boys. I don't know. You want one? You want? I don't know. You need one? Anybody else need one?
I got 3 mediums.
I miss you guys.
So Gary, you were talking about when we were opening and having to do overnights because I was a tech as well. I literally spent 3 days there, and I have pictures of the log from the booth where literally I'm just writing to myself over and over again.
No,
I'm going delirious.
It was long nights. I actually think for me, 8 tracks was a miracle because otherwise I'd be sitting in a coffee shop somewhere, or I'd be, just waiting around, So it was great. And what's really great is you come back energized. You go there, dance for 2.5 hours, you get the page, and you come back, you're ready to work.
Well, the good part was it was probably quieter because they had no control over the volume on that second level. So the booth, the break room, everywhere you went was full blast.
Yeah.
So
gosh.
for 3 days, I was ready
That's
to
why
go
we
back.
couldn't sit in the green room because they could never turn the thing down. So it was
Right.
quieter backstage.
Oh
You're
my
right.
God.
Yeah.
You guys that were there the first time, do you remember when I got there? Because Adam had been there ahead of me working with Dale Dye and stuff. And I got there and I talked to everybody. And it was, honestly, it was a little bit of a mess. I was saying, okay. And I went to you guys. I just said, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, because you were all sitting out in the grass just talking. What are you guys doing? Oh, we're, waiting to die. We did some that and this. And, are you on the stage yet? No. Okay. Have you actually got in the theater and rehearsed it? No. Oh, okay. Okay, good enough. That's what I did. I just went around to everyone. Mark Pogstead, what's going on with the animatronics here? And the reason I was really there was Chip Largeman, who was the project manager for Universal. I've known Chip for 20 years at that time too. Chip had called me and said, hey, we got problems here. This thing's not coming together. I said, what do you mean? He says, just, I'm concerned. How concerned? Very concerned. I was on a plane that night. And by the way, just so you know, I packed enough underwear and clothes for 3 days. I thought I was going to go in there, kind of get with Adam, kind of work things out. And
You used that the first night at 8 tracks, Gary, all 3 pairs.
and then I got there and I was like, okay. And I realized, a show like that takes someone like me who doesn't just understand theater and doesn't just understand film. It doesn't just, you really kind of have to have a total understanding and the experience of working with animatronics and special effects and film and 3D. And I suddenly realized, okay, I have to stay here and man this ship because otherwise it may not come together. And that's when I broke everything down into sequences. I got you guys on the stage by the next day. I said, I don't care if everything's not ready. They need to get on the stage, even if things aren't ready. And they have to understand, start getting a physical feeling for the stage and how they're going to work, where they're going to come from, what they're going to do. We have to make time for them. We have to make time for and the lighting crew, the audio crew. It's crazy, but it's kind of like You know, you knit it together. You really are. You piece it together, and you get these sequences right, and then you start joining the sequences, and then ultimately, and you have to be able to make adjustments along the way. If something's not working, that's the other thing. You got to know when. No matter how much money you spend on something, if you have to cut that to make the show work, you cut it. Doesn't matter if that thing costs $200,000. If it somehow inhibits the show or stops the pace and it doesn't work, you have to say, that was great conceptually. It doesn't work now. Dump it. You know.
I'm glad we're talking about Darryl Baldwin. I want to talk about him a little bit more. Darryl Baldwin.
I remember, Gary, when you to what you were kind of saying, because we weren't in the theater for a minute yet, you know, and it seemed like we had already been doing stuff, and we still weren't in the theater. One second. I remember them giving us a script.
Oh.
And I'm like, they gave us a script, you know, and now me, like you said, not 19-year-old version of me, you know, is like, I'm going to go and learn my lines, you know, that I'm, you know, too. And it got me. So I remember being so pissed off, like when we were in the show, and I'm like, you know, we were going, remember we'd sit around and we'd do the timing. Mom, they already started. Move.
On it. Yeah.
Mom, the alarm's on it.
On it.
Right. So, and I remember I was so fucking mad at Dave Kramer because that asshole didn't remember his lines. And I'm like, we had like 6 weeks, it felt like, to learn because they gave us the script and the we had like, they gave us like tapes, I think, like 8 tracks. I don't know what year is it, guys? And they gave, I don't remember if they gave us compact disc or I think maybe a CD. Yeah, maybe they gave us a CD. But and I remember I'm just driving around in my car. Yeah, it was right floppy disk, right? And they the first cast had we had rocks and carrier pigeons, even our air. But no, I remember driving around in my car listening to the whole show, you know. And I remember it would be so weird. I pick like someone get in my car and like pick them up, and you turn the car on, your music's on, and I'd hear like, I tried to warn you. And I was like, oh shit. We're like, what are you listening to? I was like, sorry, I'm just really excited about doing this Terminator show.
Now, to kind of fill out the 2 spots that are on my left and right here, unfortunately, the idea was to have not only Gary, because he's really involved in the, you know, kind of the conception of this, but I wanted to ultimately get some people that worked on the film aspect of it, because that's integral to the whole thing. So I invited Jeff Dawn, who's the Oscar-winning makeup artist from T2. He worked on T2 3D, and I invited Peter Kent, Arnold's official stunt double from 84 to 96. He worked on T2 3D. I invited both of them. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here because of various reasons.
They're working.
They're working, yes. Jeff is.
What are you trying to say?
Peter's at a hockey game, apparently. But
and they're like, they're not here because, well, they're actually important. So
what I did want to do is I wanted to somehow include both of them into this. So for Jeff, we had a group chat going on Facebook, and when I included Jeff into it, he wrote something, I guess, when we were having a discussion about a particular stunt in the film. And this is what he wrote. He wrote, Peter Kent, talking about Arnold's double, is a friend. He was also Arnold's stand-in, photo double, and stunt double on many Arnold films, starting on Terminator 1, at times doing potentially very deadly stunts. We had stunt doubles for Arnold on this particular project, but I don't remember Peter. We applied the Arnold stunt double prosthetic on one of Arnold's motorcycle doubles, Joey Baccaro, many times for this. If Peter was on the project, and I don't remember, I'm sorry for this lack of memory. In the 2 decades I worked on Arnold films, my crew and self applied the Arnold double appliances hundreds of times on a dozen or more different doubles. And he actually did send in some photos. I'm going to pull those up here, and we're just going to highlight them really quickly. So this is one of the photos that Jeff sent me. And if anyone wants to comment on this, maybe Gary can comment on this, but these are, I guess, the appliances that were applied to some of the doubles for.
Yeah, actually, the appliances worked well. I was in favor of the appliances, even though I know it's a hassle for the actors, because when the Arnold doubles put the appliances on, from a stage standpoint, you really couldn't tell the difference. It was pretty compelling.
Right. And then this next one he sent me was really cool. He said that he was able to capture this right as Arnold stepped into, I guess, wherever they were applying the one to the double, and he was able to capture a really cool moment of Arnold reacting, I guess maybe to the first time seeing it on this film. But here it is. Here's that photo.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was great.
Look at his face.
Right
Nice.
there. And then Jeff sent in these two from, I guess, working on the actual film itself. This one is Jeff with Robert Patrick right there.
Mhm.
Oh wow, yeah.
And this next one is really cool because it's Eddie Furlong, but I believe he's blinking mid-blink right there.
Jason? Oh, no.
Here's just a little interesting tidbit. They filmed this, and this sequence was filmed just outside of Blythe, California, a place no one's ever heard of. It was an old deserted, and I was born in Blythe, California. That's where I was born.
Oh wow.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, this is what, and then the last photo is what he sent me here. This is, I guess, the actual.
Oh, yeah.
Oh
set.
wow,
Wow.
that's awesome.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
That is so neat.
Yeah. So, Jeff, if you are listening to this, wish you could have been a part of this because you're very integral to the success of really all the Terminator films up to Terminator 3 is the last one that he worked on. Just I mean,
I just
obviously,
want to say that is a good representation of Blythe as it is today. That's the house I was born in.
But,
You've come a long way.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Actually, I was the one who asked about the doubles because I was pretty sure it was Joe Baccaro, and who is actually married to one of your original Sarah Connors, Lisa Walcott.
Yeah.
So that's why I had asked that, because I remember hearing the stories. Again, it's been a while, but I thought that was who ran from the chopper to Skynet.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, like, again, maybe Gary can clarify this. When you go on IMDb and you go to the stunt section of T2-3D, there's multiple people listed for stunts. Peter Kent is one of the ones that is listed. But it's a shame we couldn't have him here tonight to talk about it. But he did send in a video for this. I did ask him if he would send in something. He sent in a video, so I'm going to play that now. Everybody should be able to hear it. I think it mutes everyone, though, so save your reaction for afterwards. But here is Peter Kent, Arnold's double, one of Arnold's doubles on T2-3D.
Hi, guys. Peter Kent here. Sorry I couldn't make it tonight, but one of my boys is about to go pro for hockey, so he's a goalie and he's very busy, so am I. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a shout out and also to let you know, I did work on T2-3D. I didn't do much. I had a scene where I did the bike jump, where we created the bike jump with Eddie, and we flew it on some wires against a green screen, and that was basically my extent of it. So that's all I got to say. That's my 2 cents to throw into the cup tonight. Everybody have a great time. Cheers. Peace out. Talk to you soon.
Nice.
Oh, that was great.
Right there. So I actually hadn't listened to that. I wanted to save it for tonight. So I don't know. Maybe that answers the question right there. He had very little to do with T2-3D.
Well, and for what I remember, and I think I put it in the group chat there too, Billy Lucas is another big name that he was doing a lot of work for Arnold at the time. So that was, and I remember when I came out the first time. So this is one of the rare good photos I had of me in the prosthetic. So the prosthetic piece was designed to and it glued from the bridge of the nose underneath our eyes and then down the jawline here. So really to give that.
It's the jawline, right?
Yeah, just the downside to it is that it didn't attach to the lips, so you couldn't see our lips move. So it was just like, it was not functional. But in pictures and just standing there, this is one of those pictures I have there.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's Steven Tyler?
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
So
that
that's-
was great.
That's actually me. I'm wearing a Steven Tyler prosthetic. It was really, really advanced.
This is me and Jason right here in front of me.
Yeah.
They also know him as Steven. I don't know, whatever.
Wait, hold on. Wait,
I
hold
was
on. Why
moonlighting as a
why
Steven
was
Tyler.
Steven Tyler there?
But It did. I kept that prosthetic for a long time, but yeah, the functionality of it was that you couldn't see our lips moving, and there are times where the audience is close enough and they wanted to see us actually lip syncing to what Arnold was saying or what I was saying on the screen at the time. So yeah, so it was.
Great, though. It
I
looks
know,
great.
right? It looks really good.
Jeff wasn't even working that day. Jeff wasn't even working that day. He was just walking around.
One of the coolest things in the show was, for those that noticed it, was when the doubles for Arnold and when they're running around in the third act with the 3 screens. If you look up at the video security monitors, we actually filmed Linda and Arnold and the kid. I think we filmed them doing the same moves that the guys are in the theater. So if you were in the theater and you were watching, Jason and Jeff running around, but you looked up at the screens, you'd be like, well, wait a minute, it's a 3D film, and those things are in the 3D film, and they're the monitors that are in the 3D film, and it appears as though Schwarzenegger and what's his name, the kid, it's them running around, and I think a lot of people were actually looking at that and they were thinking, is it really them? As if they'd be there doing 8 performances. What? No, 52 performances. Anyway, that was
went out.
that was really cool. One of the things I really like, it's a subtlety. I don't know if anyone notices, but that putting into the 3D film on the screens of the 3D monitors that are in there, the duplication of where they're running from the thing. I thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah. There were so many cool things like that. I think that's why it lasted so long. It was just so well put together.
Which probably only added to the headache of the choreography, because you also have to make sure that, had you not had those things on the top showcasing the actual characters, like the actual Linda, Eddie, Robert Patrick. Well, maybe Robert wasn't filmed, I don't know. But if you hadn't had that, you wouldn't have had to really focus on the choreography. It's because you had those that you have to make sure that every single person is hitting the mark.
Spot on, right?
Well, look, I hate to give Jason credit on anything, but
me too.
Once Universal took control, like part of your original casting was Diana Conrantino at the time, and she came in, and I knew the choreography better than some of the people there, and I actually helped teach her in the beginning. That's how bad it was getting at one point.
Wow.
It was. Once you guys left,
it all went downhill.
I liked it. When I showed up, I still liked it.
The other happy accident was we had the seat movement put in there for the elevator effect. Okay. So we had that was called out, and we did that so that the seats would kind of lift while you were going up, just to give you a little feeling that you're really moving. We did not have anything for that last explosion. And when we staged it, I was like, fuck, we're missing something here. We're missing. And then I just had this idea. I said, again, to the guys, I said, hey, can you just, we raise the seats up. Can you just drop them back to there? It's only like, all you need is you don't need a lot. You just need a little. I said, can you, when that explosion happens, can you drop the seats? Just drop the seats, right? And the guy goes, yeah, I think we can do that. And we tried it. That was, thank God. Because without that little bump, again, it's all timing. It's the bump right at the moment of the thing. And then the other thing was timing, which was harder because, the LN2 would react to the atmosphere outside. Even though it was an air-conditioned space, the LN2 could be big under certain weather conditions. It could be kind of wimpy under certain other weather conditions. But the important thing, again, was timing. All of these things, and that's what I don't know that the Universal techs, not the techs, but the management, I don't think they understand how you sew all this stuff together very specifically, and the best moments are like magic tricks. Everything has to work in sync, and when it does, when that explosion hits and the LN2 comes out and you drop the seats, and I sat there and timed it because you don't want to drop it right at the moment. You want to drop it as that's coming forward. You want it to, so that steam is going, the LN2 is going, and right when you go, whoa, bang, then you drop it, right? And when it works, it works crazy. Everybody screams and yells. Yeah.
I remember the first time you guys dropped the seats when we're just sitting in the audience out of nowhere. Do you remember that? They just dropped them out of nowhere. They didn't tell us nothing because they were already raised up from in the up position. We were just sitting there in the theater, like it was like mid in the afternoon. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, and we're like, what the fuck? And did that scare you? Yeah, I fucking scared me. I was like, I'm not unlike you, Pitt Gary. I don't got 3 pairs of underpants on me.
And that technology is along with some of the other like the 3D like the screens, right? You were able to get patents on those things, right?
Yeah, the actual patent was for the motorcycle jump through the screens. That, if you ever seen that work, you know, without the film going, I had known that back in the Seattle World's Fair, they had done a film where a man walked towards the screen. We're talking like when I was in elementary school, but I always remember being fascinated by this. There was a clip of a guy that walked towards, there's a movie of a guy walking towards you, and suddenly he was on stage. The filmed image, that guy was on stage in Seattle. And at that time, that was enough to be like, wow. So when I pitched this idea to going all the way back to Jay Stein now, I said, you know, we got this motorcycle come through the screen. He goes, well, how the fuck are you going to do that? That's how Jay would talk. How the fuck are you going to do that? So, well, I don't know exactly how, but I will tell you, it's been done before in a smaller fashion. So this is not new. There's a guy walked through a screen, you know, we did blah, blah, blah. It'll be a split in the screen. I don't know the details, but I'm sure we can work it out. You know, of course, you could take a motorcycle with 2 guys on it through a screen. But in fact, it does work. The reason it works is there's a movie showing. And you cannot tell when a movie is showing that screen is moving. The screen is still a screen, right? So the biggest thing was we had to have a larger hole, not a slit that a guy walks through, a big hole that a motorcycle goes through. But luckily, it's built into the story. That hole, you know, from the movie, it actually is a portal that opens, right? So again, split-second timing. When that portal opens, that's when the screen is moved, and you don't know that portal is actually a portal, and you don't have time to think about it because it's already coming at you from the image, right? And then as you're looking at that, the screen has moved back down. So what was great about like a good magic trick, all the experts in our industry were looking for the slit in the screen. How do they get? But it's gone.
It's gone. You're
not going to find it because it's gone, right? And so again, you know, all my life, magic was, I know enough about magic and misdirection that I'm able to incorporate those things when needed too. So a lot of what happens in T2 and Star Trek and all these attractions, there's magic tricks involved, meaning split-second timing involving lighting, sleight of hand, change of focus, right? And all those things have to work on a split-second basis or they don't work, just like a magic trick would fail. A magic trick will fail if it's 1 second off. So there you go.
Yeah, it would. To just kind of geek out for a second here, and I just want to see if anyone else like also thought about this when it happened. And I might have asked you this, Gary, when we talked on the other podcast. But when you're creating this and you're working on the script and you're figuring out how you're going to get the characters on stage and everything, did it ever like cross your mind where you were like, okay, this canonically, if you're thinking about it from a Terminator's point of view, the bike coming through and everything, the time portal, was that ever a discussion about how like that kind of doesn't make sense?
Yeah, with Jim, because obviously Jim and I had the discussion right off. I said, hey, when we pitched him the concept, he loved it. That's a whole nother story. I think I've told you that one in a preview. That's a whole nother story, how we pitched to Jim and how he reacted and everything. We didn't get that detail then, but then when we came back to the script, I said, Jim, the elephant in the room is, are you okay with the motorcycle coming through? Because it's not per the canon right now. He's supposed to come through naked. And he goes, well, no, you're further ahead than T2. You're a different point. So we could take the leap that technology has changed by, you know, they've figured out more that he can come through. So we found a justification for that with Jim, because obviously I told Jim, we certainly can't have the Terminator come through a theme park show naked, you know.
Just once.
How
just
much
once.
better
Just
would that have
once.
been?
Yeah.
That'd have been awesome.
There we go.
Well, wait a minute.
You got to be like this tall to come in, or I didn't
want to get into this here, but going back to 8-Tracks, there was a problem with Jeff. Jeff would go to 8-Tracks and he'd walk in naked, go to the restroom, and come back out in the Terminator outfit. He thought that was really cool.
He did. Jeff's should be. He just started going to the Village people right now. He should be in 8-Tracks.
The least I've ever done a show in was boxer briefs. That's it.
Cameron, Jim actually coined at one point. He said, you know, this is actually T2.5. This is really T2 2.5, right? He was in that briefly because what he liked was he liked the fact, but you have to understand, again, from a creator standpoint, my goal was to try and get the stars in it. But understand, back then, no stars of a movie had ever been in a theme park attraction. They looked down on it, right? You'd never seen a star. Back in the Future, they couldn't get Michael J. Fox. They did get Doc Brown to do the pre-show, right?
Yeah.
That's the closest anyone got to a star of a film. But you didn't get Tom Cruise. You didn't get Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You got Angela Lansbury, A Murder, She Wrote, Gary. Come on, Angela ain't good enough for you? The shit you talking about.
The tail end of her career, yes.
Angela Lansbury would be really pissed off right now if she was watching this.
So when we pitched it to Jim, the original, I won't tell that whole story, but the last part of it was, he goes, "What are you going to do about Arnold and stuff?" Well, I said, obviously, Jim, there's the theme park route where we'd have to double him. He goes, no, you got to get Arnold, you got to get it. And I was like music to my ears. I said, well, that's our goal. We wouldn't be able to get him, but maybe he goes, I'll talk to Arnold. And if Arnold does it, Linda will do it. Everyone will do it. And he was right, of course. So that was a blessing, right? And then he had said, you're really smart that you didn't try and copy the movie, that you're actually in the future. And that was caused by me thinking, if we're so lucky as to get the stars, right, then we've got to deal with the fact that Eddie's character is now
he's not the same age.
Right. So we have to start. That was a motivator to not, to understand we're slightly ahead of where the movie was, because that's where Eddie is. So that was a blessing in a way that brought this all about. And Jim embraced it. And Jim embraced the fact that we're breaking the rules and bringing.
Oh, we lost him.
Skynet got him.
Yeah. Anywhere where we veered a little bit from the canon up to that point wouldn't have passed muster unless Jim said yes. So.
Right. Well, that's good to know that he passed, that he kind of gave the seal of approval on it and passed it along and whatnot. All right. So we've gone 2 hours. We're going to kind of wrap this up here. We're going to kind of round it out.
It's my bedtime.
Because I'm sure it's getting late for everybody.
Bedtime.
It's way past.
I was just getting warmed up, Eddie.
Gary, one quick question. Was the helicopter on Upstage Right ever an option? Because it's in some of the concept stuff, but I never had a chance to ask you.
The helicopter Upstage Right? You mean over the audience?
No. From backstage. There was always rumor of like a possible ratchet or something over there. I was just curious.
No, it's always what it was. It was very effective. You see the thing in the background coming with the lights going, and then those lights, remember, that go right over the audience?
Yeah.
And the sound goes over with it. By the way, the Michelli brothers, who did the sound, we were in there for 2 weeks with the soundboard in there. You guys remember. And there are, I think, 68 different tracks and about that many different speakers. And we timed everything over and over and over to the film. And my favorite moment, I think you're going to all know this. I don't know if the audience will, but there's the moment where there's an explosion and you see the chaparral flying over your head and you hear the crowbar, the piece of metal, hit behind you. That's the greatest moment. You just like, because you see it, then you hear it go clang, back there where you hit. Great moment. And then the score, Brad did the score, and Brad came in to meet me the first time. Jim couldn't do it because Jim was in Mexico, or right on the border of Mexico, doing the Titanic at the time. And before he left for that, he goes, "Hey, it's in your hands. You got to do the post. You got to do all this stuff, and I trust you. You're going to make it happen, blah, blah, blah." And he called Brad and said, "You got to deal with Gary." Brad showed up the first day in the theater, and he says, "I got to meet this guy that Jim Cameron says I'm going to work with you because you have the single honor of being the one guy that Jim Cameron has ever said, trust him. He's a good guy. He knows what he's doing. Work with him because I can't be there."
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
That was good. That was a nice moment for me.
Yeah.
Amidst everything else.
Well,
Amazing.
Gary, I do want to say, though, thank you so much for not only choosing us and putting together an amazing, amazing show, but thank you for bringing all of us together. This has been a family that has lasted for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And it's all because of a wonderful show that you put together.
Oh, well, thank you. But thank all of you for all of your contributions and everyone that was involved. There's so many people involved. I mean,
Put together another show. We'll be there for you, okay?
Yeah, do it.
I'm all for it. I'm
It'd
all
have to
for
be
Do it.
Cocoon. Everyone's so damn
Yeah, I was
old.
just
We'd have
gonna
to be
say
all
we're
them old
something where we're
people.
all old.
Dude, Gary, I got it. Golden Girls 3D. Like,
There we
there you
go.
go.
And which one will
Okay,
you be?
shut up,
Jason?
Jason.
I'd be Blanche. Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I could cross train at all four ladies. I believe.
Ah.
Yeah, I could cross train.
Okay.
So before I let everyone go, I just want to quickly run through a couple other people sent in photos. Just really quick thoughts. What, like, when you see the photos, tell me what you think, and then I have one last question that's going to end the roundtable, and then we're gonna end this. So this one actually wasn't sent in. It's just like when you Google T2-3D, this is a very popular one. Gary, can you comment on what you were thinking when this happened?
Okay, that is the last day of the shoot, not the shoot in Blythe, the shoot on the soundstage over at the studios across the street from Paramount. It's changed names so many times, I'm forgetting now. But literally the last shot, and I had a friend there, and I had a camera, and as everyone, they did the last shot, martini shot, we're done, and I said, Jim Arnold, can I get a quick picture on the set? They said, yep. Boom, that was that. So I remember
That's
this
great.
moment, exactly that moment. Yes.
Do you have this like framed in your house somewhere?
Fuck yes.
Oh, I got it framed in my house.
This one's really cool because this, I guess, was just promotional material on the highway.
Yeah,
Oh,
I remember that.
remember
okay.
it,
This
yeah.
is why he didn't show up at our
Yes.
opening, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Right.
was when they were doing all the promote the plans for Florida. Jay Stein was very into this idea of the 3D billboards. He wanted to out Disney. So this whole idea of 3D things, that not just 3D, but the physical objects weren't only for these billboards, although it worked effectively for this because it's 3D. But they were using the projection of physical objects on billboards on a number of their billboards at that time to separate themselves from the Disney billboards.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't come to our grand opening because they were using his image on these billboards without his permission, because he has his image is trademarked, and he eventually told them that they had to take all of those down after like a month. They were only up for like maybe 3 months, and then they just changed it all to the Buckethead endoskeleton. But yeah, they were like, well, sorry about that. Can you come to the grand opening? He's like, yeah, I'll come to the grand opening for $2 million. And they're like, yeah, no, Brian. So yeah, that's why he didn't show up at our grand opening. He was the one in Hollywood, though.
Yeah, he came to ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that I've never understood, where you're like, this is a part of the thing that you did work on, so why can't we use your image?
Right.
Right.
You know? It's
We had you,
weird.
bros. We had
the
you.
stars control their images and even more now because of all the social media and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is another one that Google gave me. This is just really cool. I guess a stunt double for both Arnold and Eddie. I think those are 2 stunt doubles, it looks like.
That's the full size John.
But yeah, look at those cameras.
That's Giant John.
Yep.
Look at those cameras that Jeff was talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. And then this is, I guess, the set that
That's the set that the picture that we took on the last day of the last shot was with. That's the background right there. That's
okay.
Yeah, that was one of the press packet pictures.
Yep. I tried to get the Alamy or whatever that is, Alamy out of there, but I guess you have to buy it or something. And then this one, I don't understand the context of it. Maybe Gary does or someone else does, but apparently Steven Spielberg came to this.
Oh no, that's Eric Rookie.
Rookie.
That's at Universal Studios.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's one of our guys.
Yes, Steven Spielberg actually came to the show and came backstage, and that's one of our Terminators, Eric Rookie, who he's still is a really good friend of mine. But yeah, that's him with Steven Spielberg.
Look at that makeup job. Look at him 3 lines, Gary, on top on bridge of his nose. That looks. I was like, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger? It's got to be. He got 3 lines on his head.
I'm looking at the weird glove with the extended fingers. That's kind of bizarre.
I don't know what he's doing to him, but yeah, he's
about to fucking choke him.
And this goes back to Jason's point. Unfortunately, they did water down the casting a little bit, and Eric's on the actual like 6'1", 6'2" side, so he's not as big and menacing as like maybe a 6'5" is. So that's why he's almost eye to eye with Steven Spielberg.
It's Jeff Sour Grapes. Jeff Sour Grapes. Jeff.
That was when I knew I was done as a John Connor, when I turned and looked at the Terminator and I was eye to eye.
These ones, I believe, are from Jason. So, Jason, if you want to comment on them, here's the first one right here.
All right, that's my ass. Oh shit! That's the
Oh
wrong
my
photo.
gosh, what a great shot.
Oh wow!
Hey, everybody.
I
Daryl Baldwin,
that one in
everybody.
because see, that's the only photo I had of Mike Sawyer there behind me.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mike is he there? I don't know if he's in bed.
I'm
or not.
holding my phone?
And then that guy looks like he looks like he's about to put the lotion in the basket. Daryl Sterner.
Yeah,
He looks
100%.
just like the Buffalo Bill. Put the fucking lotion in the basket, bitch.
That's Baldwin right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was just like that was a special event we did actually that night.
Yeah, those were the T-shirt that Dave Hyde has on. That's the ones that Dale made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to hear a funny story real quick? And Jeff can actually Jeff and Kiana can back me up on this one. So if you look at my gloves, they're all. It looks like I was hanging out with Tony Montana. But what it was when during the opening of the show when we were going through the first time they started putting people in the theater. Jeff Brozovich and I, we thought it would be cool because, in Act 3, Eddie and Arnold get all dusty. And the fact that, Eddie's shaking his after they blow up Buckethead. And Jeff and I decided to start rubbing the building.
Finish the sentence. Good Lord.
Okay. No, I was like trying to say it without revealing what it was, but it turns out it was asbestos that Jeff and I were rubbing all over ourselves. So we may have a huge lawsuit. If you thought that Kimberly Duncan about being a man, they may owe us a lot of money because we were rubbing asbestos all over us to make it look like when we came out of the future that we were dusty. Anyway,
All right,
That was funny.
There were these columns, these like I-beam steel columns below the stage that were support columns, and they were coated in a fireproof like powder coating that was pretty thick all over the column. So when you touched it, it would turn into like this talcum baby powder kind of thing. So yeah, Jason and I had this smart idea to start rubbing our shoulders and our hands and everything. So when he would hit me like, "Hey, where are we? Home?" And it would like this cloud of dust would come up and we're like, so
we got so carried away with it though. Literally, that we had shows where he would grab me when I'd start walking away. No shit, it would be like a you couldn't even see us in the first 4 rows. That's how dusty we were. And then you remember, Jabraz, you remember the column was literally like eaten away.
We rubbed all the way down to the metal part of the column. We went all the column.
And I want to say that stuff was like 2 inches thick.
Oh, it was crazy. It was so funny.
Oh man.
There you go. That's great.
There we go.
Oh,
That's an
right.
8-track.
Barry and Jason.
Oh, look at that. April 9th, 1986.
Yeah. There you go.
And then
Wow.
we got
That's cool. I don't remember taking that picture, but that must. Well, obviously we were all the markings on the stages. So this is during rehearsals, early rehearsals. It looks like
Yeah,
you got
we were. Yeah, I'm wearing my
you
rappel
guys-
gear and everything. Yeah, we were just
He's got a
doing
fucking
show runs.
Pittsburgh Penguins shirt on.
Pittsburgh.
I basically was living in that theater for the most part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all were.
it looks like
But did you buy more underwear?
Yeah,
God.
I did. I had to go buy shirts, pants, everything.
I was gonna say if you can see like this is post haircut. I don't know if I said this last time on the show. Like they actually had. I remember thinking it was so cool because they actually had the people who cut Ed Furlong's hair and do his hair came to do the original John's.
I need
And
to tell them.
my hair was one of the longer ones, so they actually cut it to look just like Eddie's. I remember they gave me the photos of Eddie, all the angles of his, to get the haircuts for reference.
So not Brad Pitt's hairstylist.
I'm sorry.
I said so not Brad Pitt's.
I did also get Brad Pitt's. Thank you for that name drop. I also do have Rebecca DeLeo. Shout out Rebecca DeLeo. She's a client. I'm one of her clients as well as Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston.
Oh my gosh.
All right, and that is Adam Bezark. You did fuck up his
Yeah.
name, Eddie. That is Adam Bezark. That was the last day of the boot camp, and that's Eric Halderman. He was one of the original T1000s.
Yeah.
Adam looks a little sunburned there.
Yeah, we all
Thank-
were. Yeah. There's me.
There's that
And-
one.
Yeah, there's me.
And
I've still got my landmark jacket. I've still got 2 of those, I think.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the things that got stolen from me. Yeah, that was one of the landmarks. That's the only thing I got from doing the voiceover work.
Hey guys, my phone's about to die, so I love you all. So if
All
it
right,
does,
Kiana.
I'll hang on until it does.
Kiana, just in case your phone does die and you're not able to answer this, I want to end every roundtable that I do on this podcast with one question, and I'm going to make you a full screen here. What is, and it doesn't have to be what you're associated with, T2-3D. What is your all-time favorite James Cameron movie?
Oh.
Okay, I have to say 223. I said I have to say Terminator.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Terminator, the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
All right, there we go. I just and everybody else get ready because that's coming your way as well. So thank you for being here, Kiana, in case your phone does die. I appreciate you so much for putting aside the time
Thank you
join
so
this.
much for this.
Absolutely. And hopefully let me squeeze in your photos because you sent me photos as well. And here's the first one. Here's the first one you sent me right
Repelling.
here.
And I actually got more that I'll send everyone.
Yeah.
That was repelling. That's Captain Dale Die. That was the
Love
training
that
we went
one.
through.
Great.
That was the bike
Yeah, the bike.
backstage.
Wow.
That was us.
That's one of my favorites.
Jim Borda.
I love it. Me in full gear.
Wow.
Action shots.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're up on the top of the building. We had
Is that
time to
me?
spare.
Who's that?
That was at the top of the building.
Is that
Of
is that
T2.
me? Is that me though? I can't tell who this
No,
Terminator.
I think
don't
it
know.
was. I'll send you the original.
Yeah.
These
Nice.
are great shots.
The ARs that we shot.
Mm.
When I
I
think of
actually
Sarah,
own one today just because of that.
So do I.
when I think of Sarah from this particular show, this is the pose I think of for some reason. I don't know. It's like ingrained in my brain, that
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
I have nightmares about it.
So that was
What?
backstage. So that's the LN2.
Wow.
And I think we had a leak that day. So that's why we're all on there.
And the last photo that I got from you, Kiana, right here.
That's, okay, well, you know, just
That's
us playing
great.
around.
Right there. And then I just did want to include the ones Gary sent in the group chat. These are, I guess, are from your personal collection of the concept art.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at these how close we came. You know, that was the original concept art. That's obviously for the film sequence,
That's so neat.
and that is for the
Oh yeah.
reveal of
Yeah.
and the
And Gary, like I remember talking about this. Eddie, I don't know if we spoke about this. That the original concept of the T1 million was supposed to be a whole bunch of T1000s that were coming after him. They blow up the LN2, then it turns that all those T1000s shatter and turn into the T1 million.
Yep, that was the original budget cut.
Yeah.
It still worked out fine.
Oh yeah. And then this one.
Yep.
Yep.
That's showing with all three screens open now what the concept was, and you can see how we use the proscenium arch there. It would flip around and become part of the scene, so that the proscenium arch actually then would blend into the 3D thing, like it's a separation of these three sections of the factory. Yeah, that's the jump right after he's come through.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, were you the one that designed this? Like you actually drew this stuff?
No. The sketches, all but the one right before that one was done. I think that was rendered. I think it might have been Greg Pro might have painted it. I think it was drawn by. I think it was drawn by Chuck Cancelliere. I know the other ones were. Let me see the rest, and I'll tell you. Yeah, I think this was a Chuck Cancelliere sketch painted by Greg Pro. Greg Pro painted Chuck Cancelliere sketch. Chuck Cancelliere sketch. Chuck's passed away now, but he did all these drawings, and Greg painted them. This one may not be Chuck, and I don't think that is Greg. That's someone else actually. I can't remember now, but I'll come up with it. Oh, it's signed. What's it say down there?
I can't zoom in, unfortunately.
I'll look at it and tell you. I don't.
It says Bob Ross.
There's a hidden
Bob
tree.
Ross.
And unfortunately, we did lose Kiana.
Oh,
during that.
Oh.
Gosh, I thought she'd never go away. Good, now we can talk about her.
So to round this out, first of all, I just want to say again, thank you so much, every single one of you, for putting aside 2 hours, 18 minutes of your time. It means a lot to me personally for this podcast. It means a lot to people listening to it. And I just want to say thank you again. So highlighting Gary, we're going to start with you. What is, and again, you don't have to say T2 3D because you worked on it. What is your all-time favorite James Cameron movie?
T2 3D. No, just kidding. It's a toss-up. Believe it or not, I think one of his best movies is True Lies. I think True Lies was really
Love that
fantastic.
movie.
And I love that movie. I love the blend of action, humor, everything. You know, kind of a Bond movie with some humor in it, but not quite Bond. But I guess it's a toss-up between the first Avatar and Terminator 2. I think Terminator 2 is pretty much a perfect movie in terms of action genre. So I'll go with Terminator 2 overall.
Terminator 2. All right. Christy?
I'm going to say Terminator 2 also because I worked at a movie theater at the time. And I remember I brought my mom and my brother to the preview of it. And I will never forget the scene where Linda Hamilton was trying to run through the psych ward or wherever she is. And she sees him and she stops. And you know how she like slides and she tries to get backwards away from him. And then the reveal for her where he was the good guy. I will never forget what that was like in the movie theater. I was like, wow, it was so amazing.
Yeah.
Mike?
I have to say I might be T2 because I liked it so much that when I heard about it opening at Universal, I got permission to go in there before any of the entertainment people. And actually, I swept floors just so I could sneak peeks at different things being built.
Oh, wow.
All right. I'm keeping tally of these. Jason?
But easily Terminator 1. Not only my favorite Cameron film, I was gonna say Piranha. Yeah, Eddie. I know you're a fan. No, I Terminator 1 easy. Not only one of my probably top 10 films of all time. Like I said, a movie that's like impacted my life since a kid, scared me. I still think it holds up. The effects, everything, all these years later. 40th anniversary this year. So Terminator 1, 100%.
And Jeff?
I'm there with Gary. It's a toss up between T2 and True Lies. I think just True Lies was it was one of those, just the comedic side and just the action there. But I mean, because I don't know, maybe because I was around Terminator 2 3D so much, but when you go back and watch T2, the Terminator movie, gosh, man, as far as sequels go, I don't know. It's one of like the best sequels of all time, especially in that time frame that ever came out. It broke the mold for like flops of sequels. You had like Indiana Jones that went into freaking, some stupid ass movie. I don't know, Temple of Doom, whatever. So you get stuff like that. So when Terminator was getting ready to come out, people were like, oh, they're gonna ruin it. It's gonna suck, blah blah blah. But it
was so good.
It rushed. It was like ridiculous, and it's still just timeless, and it's still being talked about. I mean, now with AI, everybody's talking about Skynet. Like everybody's talking about Skynet.
Yeah.
And I'm not even kidding. I'm like, I guarantee you, everyone on this freaking Zoom call today is scared a little bit about AI because of what we lived with for 20 years, knowing that that's a possibility. And I just, that's in my brain. Like if the robots have access to the internet and they can make themselves, whatever, it is what it is. But, people are like, oh, okay, Mr. Terminator. Yeah, okay, we'll see when you're out there battling the robots to save battle across time.
Hey, Jeff, show us where the Skynet touched you. show us where the AI hurt you.
Oh my God. No.
He used to do this at the 8 tracks all the time. He'd do the same thing at 8 tracks all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We made it so far.
No, Jeff, put it away.
So
That's
assuming
it was right. The robot, he tickled me. He said he was tickling me, whatever. I don't know. I'm still here. I'm alive. It was just a little tickle. It was, yeah, you know, it was a couple fingers, and then yeah.
Stop it. Oh my God.
So I'm just assuming you're giving the slight edge to T2. Jeff.
Yes, I will always give a slight edge to T2.
But to his point, by the way, James Cameron, you know, did the sequel to Aliens. In both cases,
I love it. That was
They were both great.
He took a sequel in both Terminator and that. And normally we all expect the sequel to kind of be, that wasn't very good. But he's really smart, you know, because he does what I try and do in the theme park medium. He takes the essence and the spirit and the feeling of that first movie, but he doesn't redo it.
No, he makes a whole new movie.
It's in a whole new movie. And in the case of Terminator, he took him from a villain to a hero. That's a big switch. How are you going to make that work, right?
So
Aliens, he made instead of being a bunch of scientists that are on a mission, it's a paramilitary group that have to go into. So he is really, really, really smart. And
I'm really looking forward to Titanic too. I really am.
Oh my gosh!
Rise of the boat. It's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it.
You know, they made a movie called Raise the Titanic back in the 70s. You know, John DeCure was the production designer. There is a movie called Raise the Titanic. So it could be done. I don't know what happens in that movie, but that was the name of it.
And we actually, as we're recording this, it's April 10th. Literally, it's about to be the anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. So we're coming up on it. April 14th, I think, is when it hit the iceberg. So
and April 27th, I think. Wasn't that our official opening date? Was that the official opening date of Teacher?
That was the official, yeah.
Yeah.
27th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So keeping a tally, 2 out of the guests on tonight's roundtable said Terminator 1. 4 of you said Terminator 2. And that's it. T1 and T2 were the only movies officially named as your favorite James Cameron films. So there we go, everybody. That's the T2 3D roundtable. I want to thank Gary. I want to thank Christy, Jeff, Kiana, Mike, Jason, Jeff, Peter for sending in the video, and Jeff for just being in the group chat for a little bit and whatnot. Hope to get him on another roundtable at some point. But again, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this brought back good memories. And it lives on. I think I said that in the last podcast we did. This thing continues to live on, and even though it got taken out by Bourne, even though that's a really good show, it's always going to be T2 3D.
I was going to say real quick, because I did when we were talking about that, I went to the Bourne show, and it was weird because I was almost like I wanted to not like it, and I watched it and I was like, damn, that was actually really good. But what I will say about it is the rewatch factor, because of the lack of story, the lack of things like that. It's a great one time. Wow, that was really cool. And then once that wears off, it has to be the story. It has to be, the relatability to these characters. And I think people just love the Terminator characters, so much. And that's what I think is missing, from it when I compare the two shows. But, yeah.
I want to tell Gary this real quick too. There's nods to Terminator in the Bourne show. There's underneath the stage, there's the Cyberdyne logo is down there. And then what is it? Connor's Cafe is in.
Yep, they have Connor's Cafe. Yep.
Yeah, so like they did some nice nods to Terminator.
They used Ben Armitage, who was one of our resident Terminators for many years, opposite of me and stuff, and they used him as one of the CIA operatives. That's
it's on the
screen.
film.
Yeah, and he looks, he just looks like a Terminator basically. So yeah. They kept it going. They kept it going. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of nice.
And I think it's in the pre-show as well. They say a line, something be terminated, right? I think that's in the pre-show.
Do they? I don't know. That pre-show is 9 years long.
Yep.
So
well, I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing it in person. Actually, like I said,
I want to know what you think. You're gonna die.
A couple of impressive moments where they really. It's the magic again. When you get the lighting right with the screen, with the thing, when everything's working in sequence, there's some pretty cool things there. I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. But the story didn't hook me in. But I was thinking, well, maybe that's because I'm just watching a video of it. Maybe if I'm in the theater. So I just want to reserve, since this is, I don't have a final opinion until I'm in the theater. But I was impressed with several moments where they got everything when they synced it up right. There's a couple of things like, wow, that looks cool. You know?
Oh, dude,
Can we
in the
come back
theater,
and
Gary,
talk
it's
about it
huge, 'cause
after
I
you
saw
see
it.
it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about it, but again, there's also no attachment to any character other than Bourne. It's
Right.
just Bourne and a bunch of bad guys.
I was gonna say that. I said that last time we talked. They did keep my name in the show.
They did.
Yeah, they did,
They
Jason.
did.
It was
Yeah,
it was all
it's
about
Jason.
you.
There.
Jason. They're like, how that dude impacted this shit. Let's make a show about Jason Bourne. You know?
Yeah, yeah, it's always about everything's about you at Universal now, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah, I'm a kind of a big deal there, Gary.
I know,
I'm
I
a
know.
big deal.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here.
I
And
gotta say one more thing. When they do
yeah.
the over the top attraction, it's going to be Jason's show.
I can't wait. We didn't get to
But
those
I
photos.
bet you don't even know. Do you know over the top?
Of course, Gary. I live it.
Well, I know you do. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if anyone else does. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
that
Yeah.
was the movie that was going to make Canon Films, the owner of Canon Films,
Yeah.
$1 billion because they cast Sylvester Stallone in an arm wrestling movie. Because you can imagine how much tension there is
Mm,
in a movie about arm wrestling. You know,
sounds
Yeah, it sucks.
riveting.
Yeah.
Riveting.
It's the worst thing that ever happened to the sport. That's one thing. Yeah, of course I know that.
Yeah, pretty much.
But that's why I say it's going to be Jason's show when they make the attraction of over the top. It's gonna
I'll
be,
go, Gary. I'll go. It'll be
You gotta-
awesome.
you
I'll
gotta
be a
wear You got to wear a Stallone's.
no. I would be.
Megan,
I would
stop.
be. I
You
would
guys
be
are
like
never going to
you.
stop talking. I got to
No, I'd
go.
be like you. I'd be wearing. No. I'll be a creative consultant.
But you got to
Oh,
turn
wait,
the hat,
Christy,
Jay.
wait before you leave because I want to say this while you're on the thing. Because you really do. I never told you this. You gave a little speech before my last show I've ever did. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
Okay, and I just never got to say thank you because it was one. I
Aw.
remember, like, or maybe I did, but dude, I remember like being in the catwalks, and I'm like, this is the only time, other than the very first time I referenced earlier, where I was nervous to do the show. I don't know, it was like, because it was like the culmination of like 10 years of doing this shit. Watching it be at the best, watching, like I said, Mexican and 5'3" Terminators running around. I watched the ups and downs, and but it was nothing but good memories. And when you said that, I was like, man, this is the last one. And I just want to say thank you because it's something I always remember about that show.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Then thanks for accepting my friend request after 22 years.
You're welcome for that too. You can thank Eddie for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks for doing this, Eddie. Thanks for doing this. This is great.